Okay.
But if he has
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Select Board meeting.
about that.
Everybody. Tuesday, September 17th. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome, everybody. First of all, Shelley, I believe those chairs were likely put there for your committee. Was that the plan? Is this for the?
That was the plan.
Probably because there's no mics there, but it's a combined meeting, so I think that's why the chairs are there. And will Sharon be here? Okay, good.
So one thought as we're talking about that, maybe when we get ECAT and gets all the new microphones in, we get a portable one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Hi. Hello, Matt. So this meeting is going out live, and it's also being recorded. To my right is Francine Tishman, and then John Martin to her right. To my left, Matt Rowland, Chris Fowles, Town Administrator Ed Gibson, and Kathy Ingram, who's taking minutes. And I will start by asking if people have any words of gratitude or gems of wisdom.
Not sure they're gems of wisdom, but go ahead, Tammy, go ahead.
Hi, Tammy Lunas, 298 College Highway. I would like to give a huge shout out to everyone for making Celebrate Southampton so wonderful. Much gratitude to this town, Becky Nimmons and our whole crew, Patrick Eline and his crew, the farmers, the organizations, Jen, Ryan, and Tim from Easthampton Media, the bake-off participants, and the families that attended. We had a few sprinkles, but it was really, really good. So I think it was a good start, and I really appreciate everybody in town that helped out.
Well, thank you, Tammy, very much for all your work also. Chris, did you want to add to that?
No, just to say we really had a great day. We had started out with Memory Hour at the Council of Aging, and so thank you to the COA for hosting that for us, for Mr. Ted Hendrick, and various others that were in attendance also shared some of their memories as well. And unfortunately, our tractor parade and our Boy Scouts got a little bit wet on the way down to Conant Park, but they survived. That's when the rain decided to let loose at about 11:30, unfortunately, but it only drizzled hard for a little bit, and the rest of town, I guess, got more drenched than we did, luckily. So things cleared up, and we really had a great day. I think the kids had a whole lot of fun, especially. There's lots of activities for them to do, and so again, thanks to everybody who braved the weather and came out, and hopefully that's the start of something that we can keep on doing for the future. Thanks.
Great. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, I have something. On September 5th, the Norris School had an ice cream social, which even though it's my second year in the school with a child, it was my first ice cream social, and it was very well put on. It was very well attended. There were a ton of people there. It filled up the whole back of the building. It was just really nice. The kids had a good time. Everybody had a good time. It was a beautiful evening. Fire department came. It was great. Very well put together, and so I just wanted to thank the PTO for their support on that.
Yep, they do a great job. It's always brings in a lot of people. It's a great start to the year, and I used to love going to that.
Say my name and
Yep,
10
and where you
Strong
live.
Road. I just wanted to let Tammy know that Heidi from the Historical Commission is going to be hanging up pictures in the Historical Commission display out here from Saturday. So she's going to be putting up a bunch of pictures from the event, so people can look at it on their way in. So,
Thanks.
all right.
Good, how are you?
Thank you, and I wanted to add, and Ed's stepping out, but I will add that on the agenda tonight is to do his evaluation, and there aren't that many people that have to have their evaluation done not only in front of an audience, but also in front of the TV, so I just wanted to, I'll speak to that when it comes to the agenda item, but I just wanted to also thank Ed for all of his hard work on behalf of Southampton.
And I just want to add, on Friday, the Polish Credit Union hosted a luncheon at the Council on Aging. Had a great turnout of people, and the program was really providing information about scams and, what's going on out there, not just targeting senior citizens, but everyone. So it was a very informative, and the food was terrific.
Good. I heard it was really good Polish food. Ed stepped out because I just realized that my reading glasses are home, and my husband's out in the yard, so he's looking to see if there are any reading glasses hanging around. I can do all right for not having to read detailed stuff, but anyway, we'll start by the appointments. There are appointments for the election officers. Deborah Pinsky, election officer, term to expire August 31st, 2020. Eileen Hamill, election officer, term to expire August 31st, 2020. Elizabeth Blanchette, election officer, term to expire August 31st, 2020. Thank you. And James, we'll do that one separately.
I believe these are just reading. Give them a shot.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the 3 election officers
I'll second that.
whose terms expire August 2020.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next one is the alternate electrical inspector, and it says the second, term to expire June 30th, 2020, and it's James Melou, I think is the way you pronounce it?
Yes.
Melou. This person, I believe, is currently the electrical inspector for, is it Westfield?
He works for Westfield. I
Yep,
don't
and then
believe he's
he-
the electrical inspector. But
In Westhampton also.
yes.
Right, so this is a second inspector to back up our current electrical inspector. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Is it paperwork, or is that just, is there any paperwork on that, or no? That's just the appointment? We don't need to sign off on that?
That's just the appointment, and I
Okay.
will take care of that tomorrow.
Okay.
I did have a question, though, and I'm not sure. I think periodically they have to go for some type of training or continuing education and licensing requirements?
That's
Is
correct.
that something that we would pay for as an alternate?
If it was needed, yes.
But he's the electrical inspector in Westhampton, it says, so doesn't he
I-
need that already?
If he is their electricals, he would be getting it through Westhampton.
Okay. yeah.
Okay, I understand that, but that's happened to us in the past, where
Right.
they've had a position
make
somewhere else,
sure.
and we were also paying for it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item is the joint meeting with the Board of Health, but you don't have a quorum yet, so
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure. I messaged Sharon, I haven't heard from her. But I believe we need her vote in order to proceed with this, so if she doesn't come, I don't mind waiting for a little bit longer, but I don't know if we need to postpone it. But your next Board of Selectmen meeting?
okay, we'll wait a little bit.
Yeah,
You were told she was
I
coming?
messaged her. Well, we just had a meeting last night, so she's supposed to be here. I
All right,
messaged
she'll
her
be
when I got
coming.
here, and I haven't heard from her yet, so.
She'll be coming, we'll just come back to it then, okay?
Yep.
And then,
Would you like to move forward to the signing of the interim loan for the SRF for the water improvements, since we have Jen Day and Lucy Dalton here?
right. Under the agenda where it says other documents requiring signatures, Select Board to sign interim loan note for the Water Department pumping station and well rehabilitation project. And the request is so that that can be signed off. Do people have that? Did you get a
Wait,
chance to
where-
review that?
Where is this on the agenda?
On the second page,
Second page.
under
Further
other
down.
documents requiring signatures.
Oh, it's on the back.
Ed, you want to give us some
Got it.
information about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get a little-
Actually, Jen's more familiar with this one than I am. She's handled all the paperwork, so would you like to give us an update, Jen?
I didn't hear the question.
Give us an update
Hi,
about-
Jennifer Day, Treasurer Collector.
Yep.
An update as far as the SRF loan. So this is an interim loan that's being borrowed at 0% until the actual SRF loan closes, and then that loan will be an interest rate of 2%. I guess what are the questions on it? As far as, are you
What's the term of the loan?
The term of this loan is going to be 20 years. Right now, this is the interim, so it's just until the next one closes.
Is this 0% part from the same lender as it will be for the 2%? They're
Yes.
just extending that to us?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we won't need the entire 1.7 million all at once, so it's like a drawdown as they go into the project, and once it's all, I won't say all completed, but once we know what the final stage is, it'll convert over.
Okay. I'll make a motion to sign the interim loan note.
I'll second that.
Any other questions or discussion?
Just a question, we had a letter in here too about part of a portion of it for loan forgiveness. Is that related to the same project? Is that?
Yes, it is.
understanding? The
Yeah.
Clean Water Trust is forgiving us a small portion of it?
Are you looking at the letter that was to the select board?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't have it in front of me. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I'm sure I did, but I haven't.
Yeah,
Literally.
as part of this process, it becomes a low-interest loan, partly because of the Clean Water Trust participation, and they're notifying us that, yes, they are committing to subsidizing that loan to the term of, I think it's 109,000 and some change, which is about 6.34%, which is why it comes down.
Okay.
Right.
People see that in their packet?
I've seen that. I'm still searching for the
There's a
big-
hard copy.
the
I
big
think, of the
document.
Paperwork from today.
That's fine.
We have a motion and second. Are
Yep, we
people
do.
comfortable with voting? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
No, she's the chair. Which I would think would be this signature rather than the clerk, but if it's the clerk, it's Francine.
There you go.
That's fine.
And
Pass this down.
not quite showing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's up to you.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, no, wait.
There you go.
On your
Rainey.
text? Weird, huh?
There's another one.
I'll give it 15 more minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah,
Is Becky coming?
Yeah,
we'll be here longer than that.
That's the work for me.
We'll be here longer than that.
I know you will. It just feels if I haven't heard from her by 6:30, and I messaged her just before I got here.
There you go.
Thank you.
We should have it 6:30, no? We should have it 6:30.
I don't know, Jenna, do I need to sign that one? Because I don't think I did.
No, no,
Just
just
you as
me,
clerk?
yeah.
Okay.
She might have thought we're just that there's deeper in the agenda. No?
No, she knew you were at the beginning.
Yeah.
Just the town seal. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can just hand.
Yep. They're all signed up.
think we got them all.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. We just saw her, all of us. We all set? All signatures are collected?
I think so.
Like, well, let's move on to the select board reports. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
Okay. I've had 2 or 3 different meetings over the last week or two since we last met. Let's see. One of the ones from a couple of weeks ago is the Community Preservation Committee. They've actually approved their second project, which is going to be a shade area for the pre-K kindergarten area up at the school as one of the scouts, I believe, that's putting forth a project, and that seemed to be very, very well thought out. So I think that will be coming forth for final approval. Concom, last night I attended part of the meeting at Conservation Commission before I had to leave to another meeting. Basically, last night focused on a lot of certificates of compliance, a couple of enforcement orders, and then discussion of some possible donation of land by a resident in town. And so that's something that they're considering at the moment. I'll let Francine talk about a couple of the bylaws and MPIC, but I've got one of the Board of Assessors met last Tuesday, and we had an invited guest and other members of the public to discuss the Surviving Widows Benefit program pertaining to veterans. And so that was an interesting discussion and well attended as well. That's it, I think.
Matt, anything?
I don't have any updates from Capital Committee. We do have a meeting on the books for October 10th. PQB is meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m. and school committee is starting to get back together on a regular basis. I missed the last meeting because of vacation, but our next meeting coming up is, I believe it's next week. It's Tuesday, the 24th at 5:30 at Norris.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Francine?
Okay. Since I missed the last meeting, I wasn't able to report on the Hampshire Regional meeting that I had attended at the end of August. It was their first meeting of the 2019-2020 school year. The principal reported that they have total enrollment of grades 7 through 12 of 742 students, of which 13 are out-of-district students. Her report was really well done, and I just want to report on some of the safety elements that they're incorporating this year. First, they didn't get it done over the summer, but they will be reconstructing the entryway to include a Sally Point port, which is going to prevent people coming in and having open access into the building without identification or without verification. So it's kind of a holding area. They changed all the room numbers in the school to make it easier for responders to find classrooms. Apparently, the way they were numbered, it wasn't in any logical order that they could have followed, so they did that. They had their annual building inspection. They got a good report. They moved the assistant principal's office. Both the principal and the assistant principal were on the first floor. They moved the assistant principal to the second floor, so they have an administrator on both floors, which I think is an important thing. They're planning to have 2 staff meetings this year on safety protocols, and those staff meetings are going to be conducted by a state police trooper. They already have scheduled all of their fire, lockdown, and bus evacuation drills. I mean, safety obviously is a very important thing, and I think they're doing a great job in planning for what I hope never happens. And then finally, they obtained breathalyzers, which we talked about last year. They updated the family handbook, which is almost 100 pages. We went through some of it. It's available online. It's for family and students. It's a very important document for people to understand, everything about the school and all the procedures and all the protocols. Then one interesting thing came up that I think has implications somewhere down the line, is that there is an application in for a charter school in Westfield, the Foundation Academy School, and it's going to focus on athletics with science, technology, and math kind of off to the side. They plan on 580 students in grades K through 9. And why is that important? It's another charter school in our backyard from which they can draw up to 9% of students from local school districts, surrounding school districts. So it's
What do you mean by 9%? Like, where else would they get the children from?
I think that there may be up to a 9% impact I think the way the charter schools are organized
Okay.
and what they're allowed to draw
It's like
from in
max
neighboring
impact.
communities, yes.
And then what, the state picks up the delta if there are more?
No,
I'm
I'm just saying that, no, I'm saying they can draw off 9% of the students from Southampton. So that's
So you're
something.
saying they're focusing on athletics as the
Athletics.
primary and
Right.
STEM is secondary?
Yes.
It sounds like a ski school almost, like like Burke Mountain has one, Stratton Mountain has one. It's like
I could see
the
where that
type of-
draws.
like Michaela Schiffer
Well,
right there,
it might.
right? What's it called? What was it? I
So,
forget. Yeah, Burke Academy.
yeah,
But it's grade 5 through 9?
though K through 8.
Okay, through
For
8.
now.
That's interesting for
Okay,
athletics.
for
grade
up
K
to
through 8.
580 students, so
Where is it going to be located? Do they know?
It's actually on the Southampton side of Westfield.
Westfield, yeah.
Okay.
So it's in Southampton.
It's on the
Yes.
Southampton side of Westfield.
Do you know any more?
So,
Okay.
Root
Root Road.
Root Road, okay.
I didn't think that. I thought charter.
And I
school-
think
didn't
there's
they were
some
allowed to build any
connection
more of those
between
yet.
that,
well, that's what I was going to ask her.
that facility, that gym facility there.
Okay.
Has it
and
been
the
approved by
person-
the state yet?
I think they have an application in.
But there's right now, isn't there a
I
moratorium?
didn't think that they were
on
supposed. I
use?
thought there was a moratorium on charter schools.
Pardon?
No.
No, but I think one of the owners, now that you
I
say
saw it in the
that,
paper.
Has an interest in that gym.
yeah.
Just-
Yeah.
And it's going to be adjacent to it, if I
Yes.
remember the
Yep.
story,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
There isn't a moratorium or a stay on additional charter schools in the state. I thought that was like
I thought-
a referendum. I
there
thought that was a
was.
vote at some
Yeah.
point recently, actually.
That's something we can
Well,
discuss.
they're
I think, when we have our
proceeding, and
legis-
so if and when that moratorium, if there is one, if it's lifted, I mean, they're going to be first at the door. I'm
Okay.
just trying to give us a heads up to look ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, the next committee then is the...
Can I just mention, because it relates to this before you go on, I attended a meeting in Town Hall at the EOC. Charlie Konecki pulled it together with the police chief, fire chief, superintendent, vice principal at Norris, resource officer. Anyway, it's to pull together emergency planning relative to the school and be compliant with the requirements of the schools. And it was very good meeting, and the plan is to continue to meet and to actually meet the requirements of the state in terms of all the safety protocols for Norris School. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything, Tammy, I missed? Okay. All right. The Master Plan Implementation Committee met last night. I'm happy to report, we completed the review of the entire master plan. And we're in the process of prioritizing its recommendations for the Select Board direction. And that plan will be presented at either the last meeting in the Select Board meeting in October, or maybe pushed off until the November meeting, depending upon what the agenda and what time is available for us. But it's soon to come. And then finally, the Bylaws Committee met last Thursday. We've updated our work plan and completed tasks, and I'll pass that along to everyone, so you all have a copy. And we can go into further discussion. We're waiting to resolve the differences between what the committee's understanding is of its role and the charge from the Select Board. And so
that's on the
that's on the
agenda for
agenda
tonight.
later tonight, so we'll
Yep.
go into more detail when we get to that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Any questions?
No.
John, any updates?
Nothing since last meeting, but tomorrow night's Planning Board, Monday night's the Finance Committee, and next Thursday is the Public Safety Complex. So by next meeting, I'll give you an update on all three of those.
Okay. Board of Health, I went to a meeting, and all the items will be discussed tonight. Recycling, article for the warrant, and the Board of Health member. The COA, this is very important, everybody. On Saturday, there is a Go for Life walk on the 21st of September. It's free, but please register, and registration's 9:30 outside the senior center with a walk. It's an intergenerational walk. There's raffles, there's refreshments. It was a great event last year, and it looks like it's going to be great weather for this Saturday morning. So please come out and walk as a community. And then there's also the discussion about PCFs, and one of them is on the agenda for tonight. So we'll talk about the van driver. Anything else that you want to mention? Lori or Janet? Nope? Okay. Open space, that the Open Space Review Committee had a nice table at the Celebrate Southampton. We are recruiting members. We're also talking with the town clerk about establishing it as a standing committee versus ad hoc, and also continuing to look into a fund in town for land donation and maintenance. And that's it for me. So if nobody else has any questions about the select board reports, we'll move on to the town administrator report.
Thank you. Updates. Let's see. The select board received a letter of resignation from Charlotte Axthelm from her appointment to the Conservation Commission this morning. I will add this to the next select board meeting agenda. The Conservation Commission will now be looking for volunteers to fill 2 vacancies on their committee. We have received the proof back from the printer for the annual town report. It was checked for editing and has been sent back to the printers with some requested edits. I expect that we will have the physical printed copies of the actual annual town report tomorrow. The request for quotes for the library roof replacement project is out and available. There will be a pre-bid meeting at the library tomorrow, September 18th, and the quotes are due back to the town on September 26th at noon, and will be opened at the October 1st Select Board meeting. Paul Fergal, Chair of the Greenway Bike Path Committee, has let me know that they are looking for 2 volunteers to fill existing vacancies to their committee. The following individuals will represent their committees on the Open Space and Recreation Plan Update Committee. Park Commission will be Mark Reed. Planning Board will be Cindy Palmer. Conservation Commission will be Brittany Goodermuth. Water Commissioners will be Jim Walunas. Community Preservation Committee will be Janet Brown. Council on Aging will be Yvonne Betty Davis with an alternate of Nancy Ruscio. Greenway Committee is open, and the Select Board is Maureen Groden with an alternate of Francine Tishman, and Kestrel Land Trust is open. We have been informed by the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust and the State Treasurer that the town will qualify for subsidy in the amount of $109,281 in loan forgiveness for a portion of the $1,700,000 SRF loan for the pumping station and well rehabilitation infrastructure project. This subsidy would equal 6.43% of the original amount of the loan, and that's what you signed for the interim loan amount earlier this evening. Judy Zadonis and I attended a regional ABCC training for changes and updates to the yearly license renewal process, which was held in Westfield on September 11th. The training was very informative and helpful. The MMA has announced their fall schedule of breakfast meetings with legislatures, which is this Friday, September 20th, in Beckett or Wilbraham, which are the 2 closest local breakfast meetings. Old business, we have been trying to schedule a meeting with architect Bill Devlin and Bob Kozub from the Historical Commission and Ian Illingsworth, the police chief, and myself for the end of September for the study on the envelope or the exterior of the old town hall. Our preferred architect is having some health issues and will not be able to meet with us until mid to late October or early November. Will this suffice, or would the board prefer me to find another architect who is qualified to do this type of work? And then upcoming select board meetings, October 1st and the 22nd before the special town meeting, and the special town meeting is October 22nd at Norris Elementary School at 7 p.m.
Can we go back to 2 things?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess the most recent one is the old business, the architect. It sounds like we may need to get somebody else. If somebody's having health issues, we don't know how long that's going to go on, and this may, with winter coming, it'd be nice if we can get something done on that sooner than later.
Do you have perspective on that, or, I mean, is this individual like wanting to do this, or?
He wants to do it. He's got a detached retina and just has to be careful of what he's doing for roughly the next month.
Got it.
Do you have anything to say about that? I just happened to notice when I was reviewing the minutes, and some of them go back to the end of 2018, this is money that was already approved by CPC a long time ago. And if nothing else, we certainly want to have, and I don't want it to be held up because, you know, there isn't 100% certainty of the future of the building, but, you know, it's not a safe egress from the building either. So I don't want to wait too much longer either, but I also want to take the advice of the Historical Commission too, in terms of whether this person is worth sort of waiting for, that there's no one else in the wings, and we're going to end up at the same time frame anyway if we solicit other bids.
Well, because of the Historical Commission. I'm not familiar with this particular architect. Ed has been involved with that, and we were hopeful that we would have this done a month ago, but you can't help it when people get sick. I know years ago we had other consultants, and I have those in the file somewhere, but it's been at least 4, 5, 6 years, so I don't have anyone to recommend.
Okay.
We could go into the, there is a historical, Mass Historic has a preferred vendor listed. We could go into that, but I have no opinion on it.
Has this person done much background checking and work on this, or is this person coming in new?
He'll be coming in new.
So if we got somebody else, that person would be in the same place.
Yeah, it's just a question of how long would it take to get somebody else to come in, and are we in the same time frame?
Yeah. I hate to push somebody to come back quickly, especially with an issue like that, which
Yeah.
his work is going to be viewing documents, you know?
Right.
We can't do both? I mean, or is
That's
that,
what I was thinking.
huh?
That's what I was thinking.
Is that inappropriate? I mean, why can't 2 people work on this? Or,
Well, you're asking for a study. I would say you want one architectural firm doing it. You don't want 2 different ones.
okay.
And you don't want to pay 2 different ones.
No, we don't.
Or the other thing is, can we look for another person, and depending on how we do, we can go with another person, or if we can't find one in a timely manner and this person comes back online, we'll have 2 options that
Yeah.
way.
I think that's what we
I
should
can go
do.
back to my notes. There was another company that was also recommended, maybe not as quite as highly as this one was, but was recommended, and I can see what their time frame would be.
There was a company, when we did the study of the firehouse, there was a company in Pittsfield that I have records on. I can give you that company's name. He did a good job,
right.
but I'll give you his name.
Thanks, Bob.
I think the sooner the better. It's been a long time.
I mean, I guess when we engage them, like, ask them what their timeline is for being able to get out and get started. And if that timeline is sooner than, late October, early November, then, I mean, I guess we should rediscuss it and then possibly go with it.
But we can do both tracks at once, I think.
Yeah, without paying anything.
Yeah.
What other, you had said there were 2 things.
Oh, going back to 1D, looking for 2 volunteers to fill existing vacancies on the bike path. Nobody on this board is on that, right?
Not right, you were.
I was
right?
on the negotiating committee,
Right,
but not
right.
on the other one. I'd like to go on this one because this has been there for a long time too, and
Yeah.
it might need a little assistance from the board. Maybe I can bring that.
I think that would be great if you're willing.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be good. I'm fine. What do I need to do? Do I need to fill out an application, or can we just vote to appoint me?
That's at the board's discretion. Those applications come back to the board. So if they're good, I think they know your background and your interests, so if they want to just
So in spite of that, you
appoint
think?
you, yeah, in spite of that, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Okay.
And then,
All right.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion to appoint John Martin to the Greenway Bike Path Committee.
I'll second that.
Term to expire June 30th, 2022?
that's fine.
20?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Can you give
I said that,
Paul
yes.
my email address so he can contact me with meetings?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
okay, motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, John, very much. There is another volunteer that we're looking for, and there's also 2 vacancies on the Conservation Commission. I just want to say thank you to Charlotte, who has been a great addition to the Conservation Commission. She just finished her graduate program at UMass. She's an expert on wetlands protection, and I think she's been a great addition to the Conservation Commission. She's moving to the Pacific Northwest, so won't be in town anymore. So if there are people that are interested in being on the Conservation Commission, please step forward. Any other questions about the town administrator report? Okay, so we already got the update on the annual report. It should be in print tomorrow. Any questions about that? So that'll be a draft print?
No, this will
That'll be the final version of it?
This is the final version, yes.
Great.
And it'll be available online also?
Yes, we're getting a
Fine.
PDF of the final version also, so it can be added to the website.
Any other questions about it?
No.
How about the East Street Bridge update?
VHB continues to work with Mass DOT on what they're actually going to require, or allow, I should say, for the bridge, but have not gotten a definitive answer on that yet.
Everything's moving along, though?
Everything's moving along.
Great. And you also had mentioned, and related to this, that there was some communication, we got a copy of it, from the state relative to the road work, and I believe you were, you had went to a meeting?
Yes, Randall and I had a teleconference with VHB on the actual, I will say, East Street road work, and went over that, and we got that information back to Mass DOT, so that could remain at least on the TIP program for now.
Right.
And as part of that, as a follow-up to the bridge, we've also asked them for a meeting with Mass DOT, VHB, and ourselves on the road requirements also.
Good. And so you're back in touch with that Paula person from Mass DOT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent the information back to Paula.
Thanks.
Do we want to readdress Board of Health?
So I just heard from her a few minutes ago, and she's not able to make it, unfortunately.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yes. So are we able to postpone this to October 1st?
Let me ask-
Those are my options.
So let me ask you something. You had a meeting last night.
We had a meeting last night, we went over both candidates, yep, we made our a vote, and we were just going to present that tonight and look
But-
for, so,
Okay.
but I know we need to have her here for that vote.
You don't have to. One of the comments out of town council when we went through this process, I mean, it's easier if both committees have a quorum, but there is not anything in mass statutes that actually say that both committees have to have a quorum to move forward.
But you also voted to accept her last night, so they have a vote on
We have
record.
it in our minute, we will be in our minutes.
Okay, so we had, I think, a couple of things on the Board of Health agenda. That was one of them.
So we also discussed the recycling. That was the other thing that we
Yep.
met on to vote for that.
And there's also an
I
article that you
I
put
asked the
forward.
health director to reach out to surrounding towns to see what they were doing.
Mhm.
So we did do that, and it looks like surrounding towns are in the same areas we were at requesting for $25 to $50. $25 first, $50 second, and then we were going to keep the third with the losing of the sticker. So we did vote on that, and I believe Jerry gave everything to Ed today.
Correct.
Regarding that.
Yep, so you do have that amended version that has a new title to that bylaw and the new fines in it of $25 and $50 in your packets.
Okay, I'm just looking for where in the agenda, because it says joint meeting with the Board of Health to appoint a resident voter to the Board of Health to fill a vacancy until the next election. I don't see on here that it says, okay, bylaw, does it say?
Bylaws that were down under new
further down.
business.
Under new business.
To the
Under new
bottom.
business. Number 46.
Okay, the recycling, and then the other issue is the warrant. Okay. Did you want to be a part of those discussions, or?
I was only going to speak on the position that was available on the,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we met for yesterday was the
Okay, so-
back end for the recycling.
Okay, so Ben Hogan resigned effective August 31st, and so this created a position which is available only until the next election.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
so you want to speak to that?
I can, but I'm not sure, I mean.
We all got a copy of the qualifications of both people that
Yes,
stepped
so
forward.
Jerry did say she got everyone the qualifications.
Yep.
I can definitely speak on that, but do we need, so we're saying we don't need to have a.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, there's no mic, so do you mind
No,
going
that's
up
fine, I can go, but I just want to make sure that we're fine to not have Sharon here tonight for that vote.
there? That's what Ed just said.
No, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. So I guess I also have to actually,
Saying your name.
Shelley O'Connell,
Where you live?
active chair, Board of Health.
And you live on?
7 Kylene Circle. I actually have to I'm not sure if I can open up a Board of Health meeting though tonight, seeing I don't have Sharon. Okay,
can.
so I will just jump forward then. First, I want to actually thank Ben Hogan for his time and his community time on the Board of Health. Unfortunately, because of work and family commitments, he has had to leave the board. Ben has been a valued board member, and we will miss him greatly. The Board of Health is, I'm here tonight in recommendation to fill a vacancy on the board. As a request by the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Health posted a vacancy on the town website, clerk's bulletin board, and on our door at the health department. We're very fortunate this year that we had 2 people that were interested. I've been here for 5.5 years, and I have not had this ever before, so I was very happy to see that. We received 2 letters on September 9th. We had a meeting on September 10th. Rebecca Dubé was one of the interest people. She came to that meeting. Charlie Kinnicky is one of the other members, or one of the other people that were interested in the position. Ms. Dubé unfortunately couldn't be here tonight because of work. Both candidates have an interest in serving in their community and are registered voters. We are very fortunate to get 2 individuals willing to serve. Mr. Kinnicky is a former Director Health Officer for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. He currently serves as Emergency Management Director and is also on the Capital Improvement Committee. Mr. Kinnicky served on the Board of Health previously. I think everyone knows who Charlie is.
Was a member of the select board?
Yes, he recently served on the Select Board. Over the years, he has also been a valuable resource to the Board of Health. Mrs. Dubé has a PhD in pharmacy. She is a registered pharmacist at the Rite Aid drugstore in Southampton. Becky has a doctorate in pharmacy. She is CPR certified Board of Pharmacy immunizer, also a diabetic specialist, and provides education on naloxone, opioid management, and provides smoking education. Becky is married and has 4 daughters in Southampton school system. She is a resident, and she is a resident here in Southampton, and her professional position is in this town. We would like to thank both candidates for the submittals. Flip back and forth. Currently, Board of Health faces a number of serious public health issues, not the least of which is the vaping crisis impacting our youth, flavored tobaccos, opioid crisis, and legalization of marijuana. We would like to, I just read that. In evaluating both candidates, the Board of Health would like to recommend Rebecca Dubé. Her professional background and education experience in healthcare would be valuable to our board. And I hope that you all will join in that vote with us for Rebecca.
Just to
Yeah.
get some clarification here. When we were having our discussion on the bylaws committee, we were told that basically the recommendation of the appointment comes from the Board of Health
It
and
does.
that we just approve it. I didn't have the impression that we had
So previously.
an
that's how it-
option to vote for either
So
candidate.
previously, this is all, yes, so this is all new to me also. So in my 5.5 years, I've always known that we've come here and done just exactly what you said, and just appointed somebody, and then we got the approval from the select board. This is all new to me that we now need to have a vote, I guess, on both select board and the health department.
I think to clarify, I think that in the past, we're lucky if we get anybody to step up. And I think by default, committees recommend reappointment of existing people. I know in the Council of Aging, they had made a nomination, and I think this board decided to go ahead and appoint somebody else, which that is our authority to be able to appoint people to the boards. And so I think it hasn't been anybody different in the past because people just went ahead with whoever they were and were thankful for whoever stood up, and there was only one person. But this board does have appointing authority.
Yes, and that's
So
exactly
it is
what
a recommendation.
I was told
Glad
also.
that's
so.
clarified, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
which I think is actually a great,
Yeah.
it's great.
And I also wanted to mention that there was some question relative to the recent appointment to this local school committee. Why was this have to be publicized? So with the local school committee, there was a resignation and there was nobody running for that position. So it was publicized because anybody could have put their name on the ballot, so to speak. So when somebody stepped up to be on the local school committee, there had been a vacancy. So it didn't need to be publicized because it had been publicized by the town election. This, we had requested that it be publicized as opposed to it be appointed sort of behind closed doors, so to speak, because there was no other way to get this information out from the Board of
Well, I
Health.
was glad that we actually did, because we did have another candidate, actually a third candidate that came forward.
Yep.
She had called me of interest, and within a day, she actually had found out that she has to travel for work.
Oh, okay.
And she's not quite sure what that traveling is going to entail. So she had said she would hold off until May, and then she would relook at things for maybe the May election.
Does she want to be on the Conservation Commission or the bike?
I don't know. I can pass that along.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was nice that we did post that, because again, it wasn't just one person, it was 2 other people that came forward, so we had a total of 3 that it showed interest.
Great.
And that was nice to see.
Great. Ed, do you want to say something?
Sure. There's actually 2 paths to fill an elected position. This is actually going to be, I'll call it path number 1. But if the elected board that has the vacancy notifies the select board of that vacancy within 30 days, path number 1 is both of those boards meet together and they elect to appoint the individual to fill that vacancy. And it's done by voice vote, and it is the majority of those voting on the combined committees. Now, if that elected body does not notify the select board of a vacancy within those 30 days, yes, it becomes the appointment of the select board. But in this particular case, the select board was notified right away, so it's path number 1.
And because the Board of Health doesn't have a quorum, does that impact?
Yeah, because every vote would count.
Every
so-
vote counts. Like I say,
know.
they are not required to have a quorum.
No, but
Yeah.
but if they did, there'd be
There'd be 1 more vote from the Board of Health.
given that their board voted for that.
What's that?
Do we count that here? Like, presumably this is going to end up in a vote. And
Right, so I don't, if I need Sharon here for her vote, I would rather hold off than,
Is that true, or does the Board of Health get 2 votes? Because that's
No,
what
they get 1 vote.
yeah, then I don't.
They can't
I would-
vote in absence.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
It almost seems like there's a lot of questions. So if that's the case, should we hold off 1 meeting? Or
Well, I mean,
do you have a comfort level? I don't want this to go sour on us afterwards for some technical reason.
well, there's only 2 there's only me and myself, my board member, there's
Right.
only 2 of us, there's 5 of you. So I would like to have my other board member, if I have to have her vote, I would like her to be here.
Yeah. And I personally would be interested in having Becky come, if she's possible. I know she's a pharmacist there.
Yeah,
so-
no, honestly, she was here last week, and this was all kind of decided last week that we were going to come in front of you guys. So it was just a matter of, she was already scheduled to work.
Oh, yeah.
So, and unfortunately, that was just the way it is. I do know she has to work on October 1st. She did send me her schedule for a couple months, so I know we did speak about meeting again on October 1st, and she said she had to work that day also. So the thing is, she does work nights. So that makes it a little harder, but
What other questions or? So Ed, can I just clarify, you're saying that because they notified the select board within 30 days, then it's path 1, and so therefore we're coming together to have this combined vote, and now we can't do it because they don't have a quorum, so it doesn't default to number 2, we're still on path 1, And so this meeting needs to be rescheduled for a future date?
Correct, except for the fact where you said that because they do not have a quorum, we can't do it. You're not taking action. They don't need a quorum, because the statute doesn't say that.
Right.
Shelley is basically asking if we can do it at another time.
So is that your request then?
That's if I need her vote for tonight, I would like to postpone it to another night.
Okay.
Would we consider doing other than October 1st so Becky can come here?
That's, yeah, I can look at what her
It's an
schedule is and
important
we can maybe,
position. I know Becky
but-
fairly well from,
yeah. She knows a lot of people in town.
yeah.
She's been here a long
Got a
time.
couple sore arms from her.
Yeah. Me too, just last week.
She gave me my shingles shot about 5 o'clock, 4:30.
She's very well known
Yeah.
in town.
So we can certainly look at it. I just want to thank Charlie for coming to this meeting.
Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And so I don't know if, obviously, we would want then both of them to be here again. Is that it?
So if I can, yes, I would love to have Becky and Sharon here. Yep.
You want to just get back to us then? Or do we look for, I mean, you don't know when they're available. You thought Sharon was going to be here today. So why don't you work with Ed then and coming up with
Yeah.
another date?
Yep. I'll actually touch base with you tomorrow.
Sure,
Is that
that'd be
fine?
great. Yeah, that's fine, Shelley.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Wait a minute. Did you want to discuss anything else? Or do we put the other agenda items off as well? The recycling bylaw as well as the,
You don't
just
have
wait.
to.
oh, wait.
Yeah. I mean,
What's
it's going to
Shelley's-
be.
I don't think I need to be here for those other things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to discuss them, well,
Well,
Shelley's
last
here, it'll
time
be
what happened,
tonight.
Shelley,
but-
was that there
yeah.
were a lot of questions about the recycling bylaw, and
Okay.
Randall was getting up there and speaking on behalf of something that the Board of Health had put together and couldn't speak to the
Well,
whole.
from my understanding, it was Randall and Jerry put that together, together, and Randall had decided he was going to come and speak on that behalf. So
Okay.
I wasn't under the understanding that I had to be here for that meeting.
Okay.
So, and I had found out about it late, and I had already had prior commitments, so I wasn't able to change them, but
So if it is Randall, should we schedule it so Randall can come?
Well, I think hasn't the only change, we talked about it when Randall was here last time, is the only thing that changed, is it not, is the fee structure that we had
Right.
and it
recommended?
had to be voted by the Board of Health, which we did vote for last night, and Jerry submitted everything I believe she needed to submit to.
If that's the only change.
I think we should approve, I think we should
If that's the only
approve it.
change, I'd recommend we go
That's all it
forward with it
was,
so we
yeah.
can get it on the warrant.
That was all we
Right,
talked
it has to
about.
be on the warrant, so it
That's
has
why
to
we
be
did it
done in a
last-
certain
That's
amount of
why we held the
time
meeting
in
last
advance
night.
of the
Change the title,
warrant,
too.
yes.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they
exactly
changed
why
the
we did it
title.
last
that's
night.
right.
And you got everything yet, okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Anything else?
So what we're approving is the art, we
We're
should
gonna-
do this,
We're
right?
going to look at that now then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think
think
we
the only,
should.
the
We
only
only
thing,
made
we-
the
the
fee
only
change.
thing we asked that it go back and have a discussion
Yeah.
about the fees. But then there was some discussion about the bylaws committee, looked at the format of it, took out the fees, they were put back in. I guess what we said was 25 first offense, 50 second.
And then we
loss
decided
of-
to keep this loss of the sticker for the
Right.
third. Some towns had like up to $300. We just felt as if losing of the sticker, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Different
that's,
towns had different things for the third offense, but
So a question on that then, permit suspension kind of indicates a certain period of time. Is there anything in here that says suspended for the rest of the year or for a year or anything, or do you have any thoughts?
for the sticker, you mean, if they lost the sticker? I would say it would be for the, you know what, we didn't even discuss that extended time. We just discussed what the fees would be.
Yeah.
You know, there's a temporary or permanent suspension, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it should be a permanent
I
suspension.
don't think it should be a permanent suspension. I could see just finishing out the year and being, you know,
Okay.
because if they lose their sticker, they're going to have to find some other way to remove their trash. So whether it's, you know, for a month or for
They go to their
2 months
neighbor,
or 6 months, they're going to have to figure that out.
they go to their neighbor and say, will you bring it for me?
They could do that.
You know, to be honest with you, I think recycling should be incentivized, not penalized. And it's unfortunate that, you know, this is what this, you know, they're putting this in front of us for the town to vote on it, so they get, so that we can get $700, And it's just unfortunate that it's sort of
And we discussed that. That was one of the things we were like, why do we want to do that? That's, really not. But I do agree that unfortunately, I think we do need to put something on there just so that maybe it holds people more accountable and
I agree.
they will recycle more and not, because I do think recycling is very important.
And my understanding is that this language,
At the transfer station right before you drive in.
and my understanding was that this was the language that the state was requiring, that
Yes.
exactly this way be put in the bylaws in
Right.
order for us to
Yep.
get the
Yes.
financial credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see this posted so that, like, at the transfer station,
Yeah,
you know?
we can do that.
People should be doing this.
I think even last week we had talked about even having some handouts at this transfer station early on, just to say, look,
Well, I think that we could also, I think Jerry also mentioned she would probably have some handouts at the town meeting also. So people are aware of what's going on and what's going to be moving forward.
I think the only other change was the actual title of it, right? It changed to solid waste recycling bylaw,
Yeah,
rather than mandatory something or other that
Yeah.
was there before, so.
I think it's, you have to be careful if you're trying to go more green and do recycling and then do a million handouts. I don't think that's an advisable thing. I'd prefer to have one big sign at the
Yeah, I'd
entrance
like
to the
a big- I'd like a
transfer
big-
station. Starting today,
And also
there will be a
not-
fine imposed for not recycling.
Failure to recycle, and here are the fines. And then every time somebody drives in there, they can't say they didn't know.
Yeah.
It's like driving down the road and not recognizing the speed limit sign.
Yep, that's
Wanna say
valid,
something?
yep.
Come on in Pleasant Street.
You got to actually go to the mic.
Come on in Pleasant Street. Before you do this also, make sure all the town departments are doing it first before you hand it to the people. Okay? Because there have been situations where, so just make sure the town is doing it before you hand it to the residents.
Yep. Point well taken. Walk
Yeah.
the walk.
yeah, exactly.
So the other concern I had is, are the people at the transfer station going to have the authority, feel the authority to speak up to citizens and say, here is a fine, you're not separating out the trash? And will there be training? Will there be, I don't want them to be on the brunt of, people being unhappy with them and saying, I'm not going to pay. So hopefully there'll be a plan in place.
Just to follow a good example.
Yeah.
You're
Mike.
banning plastic bags in town, but yet you sell them at the transfer station.
Yeah, but for
different.
I'm
recycling.
just pointing out, it's
Yep.
kind of like,
Yep.
doesn't look good.
This is about
That's not true at all,
separating.
sir. I'm sorry, but that's not true at all.
You're not selling bags to.
We are selling bags at the transfer station to be able to recoup costs associated with trash. That is totally different than single-use plastic bags at a grocery store.
You're selling plastic
Well,
bags.
I mean,
Don't mix the two together.
The
They're totally different.
grocery stores are
from each other.
different.
Plastic trash bags have not been banned from being sold in stores.
Exactly.
but
See what he said?
the other issue is,
Buy garbage bags in stores. You can buy Ziploc
bags have
bags in
not been
stores,
banned.
so.
the other issue is they have bags out there that are biodegradable for trash. So if we really want to go on what Mr. Monahan's saying is, we could look into that because they melt down very quickly once water hits them or something. So we can go that extra step if we wanted to.
They're not very durable either.
Okay, let's come back to the
Anything
bylaw for recycling now. This is no different than what we saw before, with the exception of the fees, which is what we had voiced the last time. What other questions or comments do people have about this?
Well, first, how much time do we have to make additions so that this goes into effect? Because it's important that it goes into effect, and I don't want to derail that from getting at town meeting. But I do think it's probably important to clarify the third offense and that that we define the time associated with a permit suspension, because otherwise, I mean, we don't have one.
So our next meeting is scheduled for October 8th, but if we're going to meet beforehand, and I have Sharon here, and I have my whole board here, we can then, can we discuss it then?
I'll make it easy. It's got to be decided tonight.
Perfect.
I'm coming back at the 3rd with the actual warrant for signature.
Great.
I see no
So
reason why
we
we
can
can't.
decide that tonight, can't we?
Yeah.
Sure.
Third offense is permit suspension for the rest of the year.
Or a year,
Do we want to vote on that?
or for a year?
Or
Rest of
for
the
a
year?
Calendar year?
Yeah, fiscal year, calendar year,
I
let's be
mean, I
clear.
don't know if it really matters if you say a year or the rest of the year.
Right now, the
It's
permit,
within- It's within, or say within, yeah.
Right now, the
for
permits.
that year,
the permits are given
suspended
out
for that year.
They're given out for fiscal year right now, right?
That fiscal
Fiscal
year.
July to July, yep.
So you got to define all that. How about permit suspension for 3 months or an actual period? Because that way, no matter when you get to suspension, you got the same as.
I
you
think
do
it's
it.
easier to execute a permit you would literally take the physical permit, which is color-coded, and then you
Right.
wouldn't
I
be
think
able
that'd
to
be
come
easier
back.
to do that than 3 months.
Right.
With
'Cause
another
3 months is gonna be
color-coded thing.
hard.
The 3-month one, you're not gonna be able to, you
We're
won't
not
be able
going
to
to be able to
enforce
have
it.
control over that.
Good point, yeah. You'd have to take it and give it back to them.
Now, I get that some people will have,
I think that's asking for the transfer station workers to,
To
it's
do
a lot
too much.
more for them. Yeah, I just think that
No, you're right, yeah.
you're looking for a lot of gray areas that things are going to get. I think it
permits.
has to be one thing or the other.
Yeah, I think it should be permit suspension for the remainder of the effective date of the permit.
I believe, yeah. Remainder of the
Be
fiscal year.
wherever you are in that fiscal year, you got to get to the end of the fiscal year. So like, I guess some people, like if they really want to stop recycling within 2 weeks of the year, they could get away with a couple of weeks and then,
Yeah. And they do get 2 warnings.
Yeah,
They do have 2
they do.
warnings. They
Yeah.
do. They have a, yeah. This is the third offense.
This is the third one, so,
So for balance of fiscal year?
Yeah,
yeah, for the remainder of the fiscal year.
permit suspension for the remainder of the fiscal year. Do we have to vote on that, Ed, or?
Yeah, there's no motion right now.
Ed, do we have to?
You should.
All right, so I'll make a motion that the third offense is a permit suspension for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Or do you want to make a motion, we accept this with that amendment?
I'm waiting for a motion.
No, he was going to make a motion just for that part, but
Okay, so,
No, you don't
so
need
that's
to do
fine.
that.
I'll just amend my motion that we accept the solid waste recycling bylaw with the exception that under Section 5 for third offense, that the permit suspension is for the remainder of the fiscal year.
I'll second.
I just, Lucy Dalton, 10 Strong Road.
Can you just talk to the mic then?
I just wanted to say that, this still has to go to town meeting and pass at town meeting and get passed by the Attorney General's office, so.
Exactly.
just-
Yeah.
We got to approve it tonight
Yep.
to go to town meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
you can't, we have to have it tonight for it to go to town, yeah.
Yes, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So this puts it in front of the voters to then discuss, so I would hope that there'd be somebody that could, it obviously is going to raise a lot of questions, so I'm hoping
Yep.
that people can speak to those questions.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Thanks, Shelley.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Shelley.
Have a nice evening.
So as far as a follow-up meeting then, we're going to be putting in an extra meeting for the appointment to the Board of Health?
Between now and October 1st, right? We're going to have to.
Yeah, well, unless it works out that you're doing it after October 1st, depending on availability. But you're looking for,
So it has to be up until what date can it be?
I think it was all
Does it
just
matter?
based on notification, so they notified, so
Okay.
they
Right.
have to vote between the
Correct.
boards regardless
yeah,
of when it takes
they've done the
place.
notification, so, yeah.
But there's no reason why it has to be within the next week, right?
No,
I mean, other than they just want to be having a full board.
correct.
This has nothing
Makes
to
it
do with the
easier for
town
them to
meeting.
get
Right.
get a quorum, or,
Right.
if something comes up for a vote, that leads you away from the possibility of a tie vote.
Okay. So we'll just wait to hear from you then?
Yeah, Shelley should get in touch with me. Once I hear from her, I'll relay that information, so the board.
Okay. I just don't want to have a special meeting and then have people not show up.
Sure.
So your poor planning is not my emergency, as they say. I just don't want to have another meeting unless the people that are supposed to be here are supposed to be here, so just want to put that out there. Next thing on the agenda then, where were we then? We're up to new business?
Yeah.
Trinity Washburn, 55 White Loaf Road, request for her son Blake to attend the Smith Vocational High School.
Is Trinity Washburn here? I had contacted her again yesterday because she was supposed to send me an email with some background information at the end of last week. And for whatever reason, she had sent it to me and I didn't receive it. So she emailed me again today and asked if I wanted to put this off to the next meeting. I told her that she could come and present her case, but you know, that was her call. So she may have decided that to resend that information so I can get it to you and be back for October 3rd, or October 1st, excuse me.
No.
Just wait.
Okay,
I'm just wondering, I know that people from the Council of Aging are here. Are you okay with waiting until the PRF or PCF, or did you have other things you wanted to be a part of? Just want to be sensitive to your time frame too. Are you okay with waiting to the order of it being discussed?
Yeah. It's
Sure.
pretty far down there.
You want to discuss it, or you want to wait
It's
to the order
pretty
of it?
far down there,
It
so I
is.
just wanted to make sure that you, I wanted to,
Bring it up.
I would bring
I'm
it up.
happy to bring it up.
Here, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to
Rolling
wait.
Thank
Because
you.
there's a lot of things in front of it.
Yeah.
So there's only one PCF, the rest of them have not been signed off by finance. It's a PCF for Richard Holman, he's COA van driver. We actually had that in front of us last time, and it was sent back because there were still questions on the form about the hours, whether it was weekly or bi-weekly. So everybody have a chance to look at that? Are there any questions about it? And do you have it?
Can I just back up 1 second? With regard to this request from Trinity Rochborn, when we do discuss this at the next meeting, can we at least have some sense, either from the school committee, and I can ask because we have a meeting coming up, but like I'm assuming there's costs associated with this and ramifications on the budget, and we should probably...
Those would be our ramifications and not the school committees.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
so we should know what that is, probably, right?
Basically, we're at a point
And
where
which
it's pretty
budget
well
it would
break
affect.
even. So if the board was to select to send this student to Smith Vocational, we'd have to find and appropriate about $20,000, $18,000 for the tuition, or a little under $18,000 for the tuition, and $2,500 for special education costs is what they budget.
Is there a designated line item in the budget for that, or do we have to find that from availables from wherever? We just have to find that.
Well, there's a line item in the budget for those, but you would have to identify
Overdraw
funding to
transfer into it.
transfer it in or to appropriate.
Yep.
You know, I don't know if you, if the board remembers, but during the budget cycle, we do not basically appropriate money for all the students that sign up or are
Yeah, because
accepted.
not all end up going.
Because they don't all like, and this particular year, we're actually very much more aggressive on cutting that number than we have in the past, because the board was trying to identify extra funding to go to Norris School to fund the language-based program.
So where are we on that? Are we dead even? Are
We're just about dead even.
Have
Yeah.
That's not a
have you
bad
seen a
place to be.
reconciliation of that, names versus dollars, so that we know? Because again, it was a guesstimate in the beginning. I'd like to see names versus costs to know, because we may have money in there, we don't know.
Oh, both Vicki and I have looked at it, and we do not have money in there.
So you've checked students against,
Vicki asked for a current list of the students that were going to Smith Voc as of about 10 days ago, so.
I mean, this is
took
why
that
I'm asking. I mean,
reconciled.
I'm happy actually that we're dead on and we're not over or under, but that we
Well,
need to know.
Yeah, because we were panicked because when Vicki first asked Denise, she thought we were about 60,000 short.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
is that something we could just see? Well, the way the budget is, you know,
Sure.
because I don't want somebody to come back 3 months from now and saying, oh, by the way, we're off by 3 students, which is 60.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be
Right.
better if multiple eyes were laid on that, probably.
Yeah.
And I think we've also had the experience where there, at some point in the school year, some student may change their mind and drop out of the Smith program. And so we can't lose sight of that. The money eventually may become available for this student. We've had that experience.
And how often is
How
that
often
money?
does that
Do we recoup that? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? If somebody does drop out of the program and decide to go back to like Hampshire or whatever?
Twice last year.
And what happens? How do the payments
Can you just
work?
introduce yourself?
Tammy Malunas, 298 College Highway, Smith Vocational PTO. Biggest question to ask, Ed, do you know, is this a freshman?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It
ninth
is a
grade.
freshman, because they've already started their shop weeks,
Yeah.
exploratories.
Yeah. She expresses
So
that in
that's
an
a
email.
whole
in her letter.
5+ days that this student has, shops that this student will miss.
Maybe you can find out for us, in terms of if there's a student that has left the school, and that might be what made this family interested, knowing that somebody may have left. But how does it work financially? When does the money follow or be recouped or whatever? That would be important, I think, for us to know.
Surely we don't advance all of the money at the beginning of the school year.
No,
Yeah.
we are billed, and I think Smith is, if I remember correctly, still on a trimester system, so I believe we get billed 3 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question here? So are we going to table this because she's requesting it so she could resend her document, or are we making the decision for her that we're going to delay making the decision until she sends her documentation? I'm not sure what was said
She's
here.
not here to present the case, so, yeah.
Does she understand that she loses that
Well,
we
she's not
push-
losing it if she wants to come
No,
at the next
it
meeting.
just
Yeah.
delays it, and from what Tammy said, it
Another 2 weeks.
has a
Yes.
significant impact.
Yes, correct.
And she knows that, and she
Yeah,
opted.
she asked, would we be better off doing this next Tuesday? And I said, the select board doesn't meet every week. The next meeting would be October 1st.
Okay, okay. That's unfortunate.
Okay, back to the PCF for Richard Holman, COA van driver. Does everybody have a chance to look at that? It has been amended, so it says part-time, up to 54 hours
Bi-weekly.
bi-weekly. And the other change is the vacation. Based on that, the vacation is 2 weeks.
Correct.
And then it identifies personal days and also sick days. So that was what had to be clarified. How many weeks vacation, and it was how many hours exactly. So it's been approved for up to 54 hours biweekly. And I also see another PCF here for a substitute, so that will be able to keep this within the guidelines, hopefully. But the other problem is because finance hasn't approved these new PCFs, they all have to wait till next time. But that is on the docket for next time. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Good.
I said, I've got a question. Up to 54 hours every 2 weeks, so it's up to, so you don't know from week to week. But when it comes to vacation time, he gets 2 weeks. How do you define 2 weeks when you don't know how many hours a week you're working?
Basically, you would take the last year and average it out.
Okay, because the sick time and personal will go by days. That's why I was wondering.
And like I said last time, we went to a special meeting that we looked at the history of his hours, and so for quite a while. And again, this was a situation that preceded the current director and COA board, where he had exceeded his hours and had a
Regular basis.
yeah. So now we're sort of in a position where we owe him benefits, and they're
Yeah, no, I don't have an issue with that. I just want to make sure it's defined, so
Yeah.
going forward, there's no disagreement.
right. What other questions do you have?
Just as you define weeks, do we talk about work weeks or calendar weeks? Is it a 5-day week or a 7-day week? What are we talking about?
It really.
It says Monday through Thursday on here.
Yeah, it actually translates back to that hours. So if the person's working, that average comes out 26 hours a week, that's what he or she would get as a week's vacation, is that 26 hours.
Got it. Okay.
And it is from the FRTA grant. Any other questions? If not, I'll need a motion.
I move to approve the PCF for Richard Holman.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Hi, Janet Kane, 83 Glendale Road, Chair of the Council on Aging. Just for an FYI, I mean, the only reason that the Fritta grant can afford this full-time position is because Richard is not taking health care. At some point in time, the town, and we're going to look at doing a needs analysis or community needs assessment, has to determine if they're going to support the seniors in their transportation or not. We don't have $5,000 to $15,000 in our grant to pay for health benefits. And so at some time in the, over the next year, myself, Ed, Joan, the board, just have to get our plan together, because if Richard decides to leave and someone else comes in and wants health benefits, it will blow the grant out of the, and we can't afford it. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. And
We're lucky that he's not taking health benefits this year.
and transportation is a huge need for seniors, no matter what community they're in, so I appreciate your looking into that. And again, you know, the message is people have to sort of pay attention to the hours that people work, but this whole thing preceded the current board and director, but certainly every department has to look into that.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next is referral of zoning map amendment request of American Dream Realty LLC for 173-175 College Highway to the Planning Board.
Lucy Dalton, 10 Strong Road. Before you go on to that, I wanted to talk to you about the PCF for my assistant.
Okay.
Because you said that you're not going to talk about it because it hasn't been approved by finance.
Yeah, it's been crossed off the agenda for tonight.
Okay, I did not know that. So I just wanted to let you know that it's not for 20 hours a week. It's 19.5, and it's non-benefited, just so you know that.
Okay. I think
Okay.
it's
Is that on the PRF?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
so it's been filled out correctly,
Yeah.
is my point. Yeah.
just so you all know.
Good, thanks.
All right, so I can
Otherwise,
leave
we
it
won't be
at
talking about it
Thank
next
you.
meeting either.
Well, I was going to say, Lucy's smart because she's told you now at this meeting, so she doesn't have to worry about trying to show up at the next meeting and telling you, so, yeah.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks,
Lucy.
Lucy.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, Lucy, I don't know if this doesn't really apply to you, but I know it applies to this particular PCF. If changes are made on a PCF after all the department heads have already signed on it, it's actually
go
probably
back.
not a good idea. So I know that there were amendments and cross-offs made and initials, but the dates of this PCF are early August. So basically amendments, I'm talking to the Council of Aging, I guess. Yeah, but I think it's, in general, I think if we send it back to have it be amended or clarified, all the signatures that have already been put on here from
Are
Joan
invalidated.
Lenahan, Vicky, they all preceded, I am assuming they didn't go back and see these changes, right?
And I did have an original PCF, and I had some cross-outs, and I did do a new one, so that's.
Did it go to PQB and finance? So I mean, they sign off on it based on what's in front of them, and if amendments are made to it afterwards, it technically.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, their
Like, this
signatures
is
are
something
not
that,
valid, really.
Wasn't signed up on anyway.
Okay, okay.
And the PQB did re-sign it.
Okay,
Reapprove it. The financial part didn't change, so, I mean, they brought it to you. We don't control the PCF once we give it to the PQB, so if they brought it to you instead of going to finance, that we're out of that loop.
Okay.
Okay.
I just happened to notice that the signatures didn't change at all, the date.
Pat said he'd sign it, though.
It was already
So last time, we talked about having some, like you were going to talk at the department head meeting about PRFs and PCFs. I noticed that in our packet is a copy of the new form that's used.
Which, actually has a couple of amendments that came out of the last department head meeting, which was after our last select board meeting. So,
Okay.
yes, Robin Richards came in and we had a little PCF 101 class. So
Okay.
it was actually very helpful in some of those comments that were made at the department head meetings, went back to the PPPB and they changed the form a little bit, so.
Okay, so that's the only one that we have for tonight, so we'll go back to resume the referral of zoning map amendment request Do people have a chance to look at that? I believe our charge is simply to refer it to planning.
It's clerical because we don't have anything in our, whether it's zoning bylaws or regular bylaws, as to how someone actually petitions for a zone change. So the statutorial fallback position is it comes to the select board, and the select board refers that to the planning board officially, so that the planning board can take it up and do their due diligence and have a public hearing on it. And then if they recommend it, it would end up at either a special town meeting or a town meeting for a town vote.
And this is the land that is currently adjacent to JP's, and it is
Yes.
zoned
It's-
residential, and the request is to
It's-
rezone commercial.
Yeah,
village.
it's currently zoned residential village.
Right.
And they're looking for a zone change to commercial village. And
right.
yes, it is the 2 lots directly to the right of JP's and the 2 lots directly to the left of Bob Kozub's,
Right.
right on College Highway.
And so there'll be a process after this from planning, public hearing, and so forth.
Yes,
All right.
planning board would have to send out the list or get the abutters list from the petitioner, send notices out to those abutters. They would also have to put a notice in the Hampshire Gazette for when the public hearing is. And then they would have to take public comment and do any due diligence they need to before they came to a decision.
Okay. What would you like to do?
I mean, if it's just the kind of an academic
It
process
is.
question,
Mhm.
not decision-making on residential versus commercial at this point in time, then we just need to, I would move that we
Yeah, it's strictly
approve it
clerical.
for consideration by the planning committee.
Would someone like to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Now, what questions do you have? Any?
No, it's going to be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of the abutters will be at the planning board meeting.
Is this land in chapter?
No.
No.
This was carved out.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
I
it's such an odd,
Lot. Right.
because it's agricultural behind that, I believe. Is that right?
APR behind it.
APR? Yeah.
Yep, but these 2 lots are not
Are not.
chapter. Okay, so there's a motion and second to send this to planning to start the process. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next is PQB request for the Select Board to consider their vote to support Cory checks for all new employees except police department and school employees because they have their own screening process. Did you want to speak to that, Pat?
Pat Monahan, I'm a member of the PPPB. I'm not speaking for the PPPB. I'm the guy that made the motion. And when I seen the agenda tonight, and I'm sure Ed will realize, it's not for new employees. This is as a prerequisite to employment. If you're offered a job, it's a prerequisite.
Okay.
Okay.
You
So,
can't do that to an employee.
This says,
so I don't know how it works. I know working at the state, you get a job offer and you can start the job, but, because the check takes so long, but if it doesn't come back satisfactory, you lose your position. Is that kind of how you're envisioning
Yeah,
it?
we're giving out I'm sure Ed's seen it, a
Additional-
form of employment.
Yeah.
And part of that letter is, Cory.
So it's conditional on the results?
It
Additional.
would be conditional on it.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, I read that and it says new employees and no, you're not hired yet. It's
Well,
it's a prerequisite.
tell me if I'm wrong, but we would hire the person, but it's conditional hire. You'd be on the payroll and everything. And if you didn't pass, then you'd be terminated.
No,
Sure, but I mean, what most people do, and it depends on if they have a, I mean, this has been my experience. I mean, if people have a job prior to this, you would never consider resigning or even notifying your current employer before your conditions of employment are totally satisfied.
We do that differently for the state. The
You
people
do?
actually
Yeah.
start, and which I don't
Yeah, so
disagree
for
with
like
you. It's
all
not
of
the
my
best
employment,
way.
I got to pass a drug test, I got to pass a Cory check, I got to pass all of these things. I get the letter, I get the offer. This is everything I've ever had, and it's all conditional. And I say, well, I'm not giving 2 weeks where I am. until all of the conditions have been removed. That's only.
No, I agree with that way, and that's why I'm trying to define how we're trying to do it here.
Again, the only reason why I'm standing up here is because I had read this, and it doesn't mean it was meant as a prerequisite.
Okay.
That, you're not going to work for the town if you can't.
So all
pass the course.
prospective new employees, it probably should
Correct.
say.
Not new employees.
It would be a
after
conditional
employment.
offer of employment that stated that it's conditional on whatever those pieces are, and one of them being successfully passing,
Does
the
this need to
quarry.
be clarified anywhere, or is it?
Yeah, I think what Matt's saying, a conditional offer, you're not going back to
Contingent,
your
it's
boss and giving
contingent.
notice yet.
No, you wouldn't.
No,
Instead-
nobody should.
Yeah, it's because it's not an offer of employment, it's a conditional
I
offer of
think,
employment.
I think the wording is the offer is contingent upon,
Yeah.
not the job is contingent. The offer is contingent upon you getting, a satisfactory query check.
Can you just explain what you said, where you work, it's different, it's,
You can get an offer, it's a full background check, so that takes longer, but you can actually start in a position, and it's conditional upon that having a satisfactory background check, and if you don't have one, then you will be terminated from your position. Of course, if you don't think you're going to pass one, you don't take the job. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes common sense doesn't click, but I mean, Matt.
No, but the strangest things happen to people all the time. Like, I would never expect that too, but I just think, like, just from a best practice standpoint, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, why would you take that kind of risk if you just wait for it to go through,
Right.
right.
Just had a question. How many people would this affect in town? How many employees would this cover then, if we're not talking police and school?
Well, you have the highway, you have town hall.
Yeah, we're not checking people that
No,
are
but
already
she's asking, I
employed.
believe, how many positions would this involve?
Right,
If
positions,
you
I'm sorry,
exclude
yeah.
school and you exclude police, how many queries are we going to end up doing over the course of time?
Anybody that's employed, somebody that's been given a job offer, you'll do a query background check. Because there's very few people that don't have interaction with general public.
I'm just thinking in the number of PCFs that we approve for the fire department.
Yep.
It's a lot.
These are not PCFs.
Actually, you have to come to the thing.
These are not for PCFs. This is when you're being offered a job.
Right, we offer a lot of jobs to the fire department.
Under a job offer.
Under on-call status,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Well, if you're on call, like fire department does theirs automatically. Police department does theirs automatically.
I don't believe
School
the fire
department does
department
theirs
does it
automatically.
If they are a firefighter, just a strict firefighter would not.
But
However,
paramedic level.
if you are an EMT and do on the ambulance, yes, you would.
Automatically.
So do you have a sense of how many employees would we be talking about? Municipal employees in this building, in addition to highway, transfer, fire department, library?
We're talking a lot.
I'd say probably up to 50.
Yeah, it's got to be.
But this would not be for elected officials, right?
I guess not.
We
The only,
we don't have
the
control.
only way you could do, I mean, Maureen had asked me the question of, okay, does this cover volunteers? And actually, the new law does cover volunteers. The only way you could actually do elected officials, because elected officials can do what they want, they're elected, would be is if you had a bylaw that, and whether that's certain or all of them are also required to have a query.
Did anything, was there anything that, this came out of the blue a little bit. Is this,
I'm the one that brought it up.
Okay, but it was not, you have to go to the mic then.
Every single place I've ever worked at, including municipal
Yeah.
and government agencies, pre-employment queries.
Yeah,
And that's why, as we were going through the PCFs,
curious. if
I
there
took a
was
look and went,
Incident or something?
no, preventing an incident.
Do other towns do the same thing?
Heck, yeah.
Do we have across, do we have
I
information?
can tell you
about
a couple of different employments that I've had in the past for municipalities automatically.
I think this is a best practice personally.
that? Our lawyer doesn't recommend necessarily for all employees, but people involved in handling funds, and obviously children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. If you saw the paperwork in the, that was something that there's issues that maybe aren't as obvious relative to keeping this information confidential, storing it for how long, maintaining the information. So those are just some considerations that our attorneys had raised. So I just wanted to make sure that that point was made.
Yeah, our challenge is that we don't have an HR department.
Right.
And keeping the information secure. Not that I'm not saying that I don't think it's a good idea. I'm just saying we need to put procedures in place.
Ed can address the procedures for the Corey backgrounds. We don't, as part of we don't see them either. It's not our.
Not yours.
It's not ours to do. We actually have people that are certified in town that will do them. They're the ones that see the Corey, not us. It's either a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Then they have to be stored securely and they have to be maintained. As some of you know, I do not recommend this. Did not do all Corys for all employees in West Springfield, did not in Beckett. I don't really think we have the resources to do it here in Southampton, to be honest with you. I think really I understand the request, but I really don't think it's necessary. And like I say, I don't believe we have the resources to do it.
I appreciate that point, but I just can't imagine. I can't believe that there would never be an incident with this.
What do you mean?
I mean, I just feel like that. I feel like we're liable if we don't do this. Is that a ridiculous statement to make? I mean, come on. We live in 2019, not 1952.
Yeah.
Well, if that was the case, then the statute would say you got to do Corys for all employees. The statutes don't. They are very specific, and they're very specific for a reason.
I mean,
Some people might consider it in some level, and I'm not talking about security, I'm talking about some positions that may not involve caring for people or driving or money. Some people would consider it an across-the-board blanket invasion of privacy on some level.
I agree with that,
That
too.
being said, now that PQB has presented this to us, then anything happens, our level of accountability just went up dramatically that,
that's what I'm
the
concerned
select board did not approve when it was recommended by the personnel committee to do this across the board. So
Well, that's what I'm concerned
we're a
about.
little bit now between a rock and a hard place. Our attorney is not recommending it. We may have opinions around whether security, small town, who holds the information, how is it managed, communicated, all of those issues. Whether or not it's a violation of privacy for a not needed for this job scenario. So anyway, there's a lot of issues around it, I think.
Yeah.
Is this something that would lend itself to having a bylaw created for it, where we could define the limitations of who would be, who would have to submit to a Corey?
You don't. All you have to do is put it in the job descriptions where you require it. Corey required. Boom.
Right, but we may have to have a bigger picture against that to define who we think should have. If we don't think that all employees should have it, don't we have to then define what the subset is that we think should have it?
Well, that's the
make
job
that
of
known?
PQB, and that we just heard their vote.
Yeah. I mean, this is a Corey. It's
Their
not a
vote is
sorry
blanket
check.
across
so-
all employees. Like, I'm starting to go back on this too. It's just like, they don't know that it needs to be everybody.
But this is a Corey check. It's criminal. It's not a sorry check. So criminal involves all the town employees, access to money or records or all that stuff. I mean, to me, I think it's a good idea. It won't catch everything, as that case in Hoyle was clearly shown, but anything that's out there, it'll pull up. And it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. And
It's
if
a big deal, actually, personally.
to go through one,
No, not to go through it. I think this is a big decision.
Oh,
I think
it
that
is a
we
big
just heard
decision.
from
What
West
do you
Springfield,
what do-
Long Meadow, Beckett, they don't do it. I hear that everybody does it, but then I'm hearing that the towns here. I would like to learn a little bit more about this.
I would too, but just out of curiosity, like, what is your primary concern with it, with actually doing it?
We live because it's not a minimum requirement of the job. I mean, I think that there are certain, I've known of people that, right now, obviously cannabis is legal, but there are people that have been convicted of, that still have it on their record that they were growing marijuana or something. Like, I'm not so sure that I entirely trust that what's in their record isn't going to show up and it's going to be negative, but not necessarily negative for the job.
but then you make a decision on that.
No, but that brings up an important question.
You don't
Who's
have
the
to
one
turn
that-
them back.
Who's the one that decides? Because I mean, I'm sure the requirement's not to have a 100% clean quarry. It just can't be anything related, right? I don't.
Who makes that decision?
That's what. Well, that's the question I was just about to ask. Like, who decides? Like,
The hiring authority.
who's the hiring authority?
Depends on what the position is. Could be me, could be the select board. Could be
a
the board of
department head.
The
assessors.
highway department?
Could be the board of health. Could be the water commissioners.
Interesting.
Did these issues come up when PQB discussed it? All of the things we were talking about?
Background checks, definitely, yeah, we all, again, I'm the one that brought it up, and I said, as far as I'm concerned.
You weren't there.
Anybody that has access to the public.
Yeah,
Which
but
are
no, but the issues that
employees.
we're raising around confidentiality,
Privacy.
storage of information, who gets to
Actually, yes,
have,
that did come up, and it was addressed directly with.
You should come to
We're
the
not
mic.
doing it, it's actually done by a third party, not by
Well,
the
who does it then?
PQB. There's personnel in town which actually do the background checks. You mentioned one of them on the COA, and
Right.
who was the other?
The other one would be Judy Zanotis in my office.
Okay, and that's it. No one else sees them except those two people.
Yeah, but my point, I guess, because I'm going back and forth on this now at this point. Like, at first I was for it, now I'm not sure that I'm for it at all. But Judy's is honest, and the COA aren't the ones that are going to be making the decision on whether or not anything in the quarry is considered. You're not allowed to have the job because of what's found in the quarry.
Correct. I believe it would be up to the department head.
Yeah, so then that has to. So then there's got to be procedures in place to be able to disseminate that
do we
information.
have a policy for storing this information? Judy's only been with us for a couple of months. The person in the COA has only been with us for a couple of months. What happens to them when they come and
There are state laws,
go?
and there are, again, we don't even see them.
Wouldn't this go along with the confidential information in every employee's file? Only certain people can see those, and we have policies and procedures around that. This is another bit of confidential information to
But
me.
doesn't the PQB hold a lot of the personnel files?
They do.
They do. In this case, they would not see the quarries. They would have to stay locked up, the ones that we did in our office, and just have a report back to like the PPPB.
But doesn't just the chair of the PQB have access to these? That's my understanding or memory of the
The
policy.
chair does, and I do.
Right. Yeah, and they're locked away.
They
in
are
file.
locked up.
Yeah, so that'd be the same thing, I would think.
Well, the quarries would get kept in a different place. They would not be kept in the personnel files.
I think we should do some more. I think we should have a good. We need more information. Like, we need to know what other towns are doing. I mean, Ed's a tremendous resource and has led other towns, and it sounds like this isn't being done in other towns, which I think is a decent data point to have.
Or do we want to be more progressive, you know?
True.
I guess I'm a little
Again,
concerned.
my only reason coming in here tonight was after I read this thing, and it said new employees, it was put down as a prerequisite for employment. That was the difference. That was my only reason for coming in, is it's not for existing employees.
Right, but how is that different than
what this
past?
says.
Because what it says here is just new employees.
But
Which is-
this
which
is- A new
covering-
employee is a
that
person
memo
that's already
says
been
for
hired.
all employees.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the, okay.
Well, what's on the agenda is not what's in the memo. This says
In the
new
memo.
employees, this says all employees.
I'm
the
happy to read
cover
the memo.
memo-
The P-
I hadn't seen
the
it.
PPPB
The memo actually covers both.
It just says the memo from to the select board from the PQB says, dated September 5th, the PPPB at last night's meeting, September 5th, approved a motion to support quarry checks for all employees, except police department. They have their own procedures, and school employees who do not come under our direction. The PPPB asked the select board to facilitate this motion. So it's actually not accurate. The memo, I have some concerns that it's not recommended by our attorney. So I think it just needs a little bit more discussion and research, in my opinion.
I agree.
I'll see them Thursday night and have it clarified and sent back.
I'll be there.
Okay, so Matt will be there Thursday, and we can sort of just look a little bit more into this. And just so you know, if you don't know, that the attorney's concern had to do with storage, security, cost, those kind of things is what was raised, and did not recommend it for all employees, but recommended it for children, the elderly, people with disabilities, if you have care involved with them, and people that are involved in money.
Which makes sense to me.
So maybe you can
Okay.
just, okay, to be picked up again.
All yours.
Thanks.
Okay. To be continued.
Okay, the next item is Bylaw Advisory Committee makeup and charge.
Okay.
And since the Bylaw Review Committee doesn't currently really have a makeup or charge, I kind of put this together as a multiple choice with a bunch of different options, just as a starting point rather than try to write one and have the board say, well, can we add this or take that out or what have you. So, and it's only here for basically a starting point.
So I think there was some confusion in the past about whether or not this is the bylaws ad hoc committee or standing committee. Because it was referred to both ways in the past.
Correct.
And there's no clarification from previous minutes as to whether or not it was one or the other, right?
No, I saw it referred to as one way in one place and ad hoc committee in another set of minutes, so. That was one point of confusion. Would you like me to read through it in the options?
Well, we've had a chance to read through it. At least I have. Have you?
Yeah, I've read.
Yeah.
I guess, well, you know, I'd like to, I don't want to open the discussion. I'll be happy to respond, but I do have material here to show as examples of how the committee has been working, what the committee thought their responsibilities were, and now, you know, you put something together and now we're being asked to take it apart. So I'd rather hear from everybody else what your opinion is of this, and then I have other documents I would like to share with you.
Okay, so in general, my experience on the board, and I know, John, you've been here longer, has been that the bylaws committee, as long as I've been on the board, has done a phenomenal job of taking existing bylaws and, you know, it's basically a bylaws review committee. So my experience has been they have taken existing bylaws that has very complicated language and have been able to cut through a lot of it and just sort of amend the bylaws so that they're much more user-friendly, much more easily read, and has been systematically going through all the existing bylaws. And I think the question is, one, are they a standing committee or an ad hoc committee? And two, is their charge to review existing bylaws and edit for ease of reading, or do they create content with creating bylaws for various municipal governance and other processes in town? Is that a good summary?
Yeah. I mean, so.
John, what's
Yeah,
your
I mean,
experience?
my thought is between ad hoc and permanent, it should be permanent, because I thought the goal was to review existing, take them, and I think that they did it on their own, took it piece by piece by piece and brought it to us with recommendations and changes. And once that process is through, we need that committee to relook at maybe new bylaws that come up or suggestions that come up, and be a constant reviewer of the bylaws and with suggestions and ideas. Because if you make it ad hoc, it's dead. Then 5 years from now, we're going to say, you know, we need to do this again. I think you need a continuity of the committee. They may, after a while, they're not going to have to meet on a regular basis, but even if they meet, you know, bi-monthly, quarterly, or whatever it takes, it's a constant review process, which I think is important.
Are there any comments?
I like that. I mean, I think I agree with that. I mean, we don't always get it right. you know, we're amending these things on the floor sometimes,
Yeah.
you know? And so, like, I mean, to expect that, like, the language on these things, especially when things are getting amended on the floor at a meeting and then approved, that the language reads right and that the intent is there. I mean, I think it's good to have a standing committee. I mean, these things come out at every town meeting, and they should review them, and then if they feel like that the intent's not there, have a discussion about it, and then it comes, then, you know, we perfect it at future town meetings where, you know, and we talk about the issues associated with it. So, I do. I'm with you on that.
It's also a place where people know they can go to with ideas and suggestions or questions.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think, though, as far as what is covered by the bylaws committee, and I agree with you, John, I do think it should be a standing committee. I think should be a committee that helps us to have a standard. So when we, for example, have Personal Policies and Procedure Board, if we had all the department heads submitting things in different forms, and I think the good thing about the PQB is it standardizes. They score things, they have forms that are standardized, and I think I can see the bylaws committee having the same sort of a thing. But I don't want to take the authority away from committees to actually create their own, that then the bylaws reviews to make sure that it meets law and meets standards and, you know, templates for the bylaws. So for example, I'm noticing on here like a noise, there's a new one. So when I was on the Board of Health actually dealt with noise pollution, water pollution, air pollution. That was a bylaw that came out of the Board of Health at the time because there was a lot of attention to barns and the noise that was being created over Southampton, and there was a whole movement to address that. So I wouldn't want the bylaws to set the rules for the town. I can see how the Select Board might request the bylaws committee to work on certain things on our behalf, perhaps, but I don't want to take the authority away from committees, like the Finance Committee should submit bylaws for the timetable for the budget cycle.
So let me just say, none of this was done in a vacuum. The Finance Committee reviewed their section, the Treasurer reviewed their section, and case by case, it was done in conjunction with the committee, with the exception of those that are new. And if I get some status on I do have one. Anyway, and some of these have already come before. The first three have already come before. Conducting business, membership, and town administrator have already come before the Select Board in the past and were approved. Now, the reason the subsequent work has not come before the Select Board was because at that time they said, just give it to us all together, don't come to us with piece by piece. So that's why there's been this kind of hiatus between, well, for a number of reasons, but one of them was that you haven't heard from the bylaws committee. But now that we're at this juncture, we really need to have some clear understanding of expectations. To give an example, I'm going to hand this out. It's a double-sided.
Thanks, Nancy.
Article. Oh, yours is it?
I'll pass it. I know mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have, okay. On the one side, you'll see there's one sentence, and that is the current bylaw covering the treasurer-collector, okay? The other side is what we have drafted to be the description of the role of the treasurer-collector, and we did it. We gave it to the treasurer-collector. She responded. We met a couple of times. We tweaked it. I think she owes us one more piece of information. This is still in draft form. And then she was happy with it. But we took this responsibility as a way to communicate to people in the town actually what does go on in all of these departments. When it comes to their regulations and their enforcement and all that other stuff, they have their own set of bylaws. We're not rewriting zoning bylaws or Board of Health bylaws. They have their own set of rules that they have to operate by. But what we are doing is trying to to develop a comprehensive go-to document for people in the town so that they can understand what's happening. So, I mean, if you take this one sentence against this, she was very happy to see this.
Let me be the devil's advocate. Why can't this just exist in a job description? Because all of these are going to change based on Mass General laws or different changes that come up along the way.
But this outlines the responsibilities, yes.
But is that a bylaw? I guess that's where I was confused too.
Well, okay, I hear what you're saying in terms of job description, but even if we tweaked it to be more than this sentence on the back, but talked about the authority under which they operate and all this other stuff, so
Do we even?
it's really up to you.
I'm back for the treasurer collector. Why would we? I'm starting to wonder why we even need a bylaw for the treasurer collector. Is that a requirement? Because it's all job description.
Well, all we did is we took what was existing and we enhanced it.
Well, even the current thing is a job description.
Yeah, I mean, a bylaw to me is
It's a
different.
requirement of the job.
Something like
It's not a
this.
law, like.
Then, if that's the direction, then that's what we'll do. Then our job is much easier than it has been. Now we have to undo it. I mean, if that's the opinion of the group. But
Ed, what's your experience with that?
Let me pick my words very carefully here. I believe that whether it's the treasurer collector, the town accountants, the town administrators, and I could go on, for those type of positions or those type of departments, there is an advantage to having a bylaw versus nothing. And in some cases, even committees.
But a bylaw to describe what your job is, or a bylaw that gives the power of your office?
Well, here's where I got to be careful. I read this, and this is really, if you're going to do it, really, in my opinion, isn't adequate. This itself is more job description-ish rather than bylaw, or, excuse the expression, because we don't have one, charter-ish. So, somewhere in between, but may be able to get some feedback from whether it's town council or some of the STAM groups or organizations. But yeah, I mean, there are advantages to put certain things in those bylaws. Please remember, once you do that, you have to go back to town meeting to amend that or change that. So you got to be careful about that. But there is an advantage to doing, some type of a framework. I mean, and I'm just going to wing it here. The Treasurer Collector's Office issues all town water bills and receives payment of such. Is there another way to word that? Because I'm going to read this, and if some point in the future we decided, while the Collector Treasurer's Office might oversee that function still and be responsible for it, that it might be less expensive and more efficient for the town to go out to a third-party vendor. So is there a way to kind of maybe state that, but in a different way, or
more generic.
Bills or fees are more generic, or whatever. I mean, would there be a time that it says also collects fees and issues transfer station stickers and bags? I like that they do it. Do you want to absolutely tie it through a bylaw to that function? So.
It's almost like you do a policy, which is high level, then you do a procedure, which is all the details.
Correct.
And that's what I look at this.
So we'll do it, so the policy piece and skip the details.
Yeah, and that would be in the job description. That's
But
my
are you
opinion.
okay with that? I mean, because if really all anybody wants us to go back and do is tweak this one sentence, we'll be happy to do that too.
Yeah, it's almost like, in my opinion, on that one sentence, town treasurer collector is responsible for, and to me, that would be the bylaw, and just have that paragraph. And then job description goes into all the details. But
So saying it's an elected position for a 3-year term, responsible for okay. We don't have to go through the detail. This was just to give you an example of what has been done that now I'm seeing needs to be undone.
Yeah,
And so this is, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add, because I'm on the committee with Francine, it has been a struggle, especially around these that are dealing with the roles of people in town, and whether this belongs as separate bylaws or something under town government instead to describe the structure,
Yeah.
which is what I think we were trying to do, but it does get a little bit confusing between the structure and the roles, and then all of a sudden, quickly you can be in the weeds on a job description. But we had tried to do one, I had tried to work one for PQB as well, because theirs too is like one sentence. And so I had gone and I'd pulled some things from their current website and just expanded upon that, and they too felt like, no, it wasn't necessary because it's already on their website. So I think a lot of committees feel like, or some committees feel like it's not necessary for us to do some of this because it's on their website, and yet we're trying to look at making the roadmap for anybody who doesn't know that these committees even exist or where to find out about them, to come to some central place to say, okay, yeah, there's an ag commission and there's a bike path commission, and this is generally what they do. And so, that's where I think we've been struggling, Francine, if that's true.
Yeah, we have, so.
And with some of the committees and stuff, if you don't have anything, it may be, other than just listing them out, of, okay, is there anything that says how many members, what are their terms, who are they appointed by, how do you fill vacancies on that board, and maybe fill in some of those blanks if you've got them, and if not, maybe, okay, it's time to maybe address some of those things and bring it back.
Okay. All right, that will make life,
Yeah.
I think a
And
lot.
I do think a little bit, to what Rini was saying, I think a lot of what we've been trying to do, which I'm not sure I'm seeing in the proposed draft of the charge for the committee, has been to try and propose some edits and changes that would improve clarity of what does exist, because some of these are some of them are a bit old, and others are just very awkward language that doesn't make it very easy for somebody to go through and understand easily. So we were trying to also tweak that language to make it more user-friendly, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So-
And some was very dated, some of the stuff doesn't exist anymore. And then there are things that are missing.
Right.
We haven't dealt with there's nothing in there about privacy, and yet, the state is looking at laws covering drones. I mean, what are we going to be doing about that? And how do we incorporate those kinds of changes that are happening? And so we were anticipating things like that. So it was a little bit of trying to clarify some things and a little bit of forward thinking about how we anticipate the needs. So we're fine.
I think
If we get the very clear thing. So if how it's who the positions, how they're comprised, the committees, how they're comprised, how they're elected, and basically leave it at that and take the details out. But it needs to be more than this. A detailed. It's an elected position. It's a 3-year term.
Yep.
I mean, there's a little bit more to it than this. So,
And, you know, I'm looking down the list that you have here, and I'm just hoping, I mean, when I look at this, fire lanes, fire department, dog and dog hearings, Board of Health, like, my hope is that I don't want to take the authority away from committees to sort of, especially committees that are elected. Like the bylaws committee is an appointed committee. I don't want to take the authority away from elected people in town to set their own guidelines, and they vote, and it still goes to town meeting, but I don't want a committee to come in and make decisions or set up guidelines that are the authority of another committee, in my mind.
Well, and that was not the intent.
No, I know.
The intent was really to be.
So when it has done on these, were these like curb cuts? I imagine that's very much highway department. Is that something that the highway department drafted initially? And so there was just a standardization of the curb cut? And did it go to highway department after bylaws, or?
Well, you see, and this is part of the problem. If it did, it's going to go back because this thing has gone on for so long.
Yeah.
And things may have changed, that we need to circle all the way back to some of these and ask people to look at it again, and is this still accurate or not? And move forward just to get it done.
But then, sir, is your question reading also that, does this, for example, the curb cuts would then, once it's finalized and approved through the highway department, with the language they would like, are you asking whether it would sit then on the highway department's, website page, whatever it is, versus being in a general bylaw? Is that your question, or?
No, actually, my question is, and I wouldn't want the committee to, create this or change the content of it at all without it being part of the charge of the highway department.
Right. So the things that were new or marked, anything else that has a number is already an existing article that we would have updated. So there are a total of 44.
And I know that there was a request to sort of give them to us all at once. I mean, that's obviously going to be a meeting in itself on some level, but in terms of putting this information in front of the voters, I think there has to be a little bit at a time, because otherwise they're going to be updated before they're even presented to the voters, if there's that many of them.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I know.
I don't.
So.
And the other portion of that, and I suggest that we do this, is if you're going to have them reviewed by town council, are we better off picking out a few sections at a time, for each town meeting to have that done budgetary-wise than trying to do it all at once.
So maybe the committee can discuss, formalizing the standard committee, making sure that that's in the minutes somewhere, and made a recommendation to us, and then does that have to be voted by the town for that to be a standing committee? I've been waiting, actually. Lucy's supposed to get back to me because the Open Space Review Committee is in the same boat. We're asking her for information as far as what are the steps to take to actually request that to be an existing committee, a standing committee. So
it doesn't have to be a bylaw. It can be just as simple as
a vote of the committee?
Well, no. Basically, you want to do a charge like this and fill it out for that committee.
Okay.
And it becomes basically a policy of the Board of Selectmen, as long as that committee falls under the Select Board.
Okay, so it doesn't have to go beyond that. So that might be a good thing for the committee to do, is to make it official that it's standing as opposed to ad hoc, since there was some question about that, and then maybe grouping the bylaws by department or something and proposing. What do you think?
Yeah.
That would work.
By department or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, it does. I mean, it makes sense to have related topics together. That I'm fine with that.
So I don't believe that the most recent town meetings that there's been any discussion around approval of bylaws.
No, there hasn't.
Yeah.
The only ones, and we have record, that have come before the Select Board are the ones we'll get. I think I had one that had the status, but that may be I may have handed it out, but I'll get it. I do have that
Well, I certainly don't.
specific with the list of the ones that have already been gone by the select board and have not gone before town
Yeah.
meeting. So,
Well, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the intent here is to present to the public more information so that people can understand the interrelationship between the work of the town and that the amount of work that's gone into this to clarify language and to try to standardize language and to make them up to date has been a tremendous amount of work. So I appreciate that. And I'm hoping we can have some in front of us and in front of the town so it can move beyond the committee.
yeah. But I would think our earliest would be this, at the annual meeting in May. Yep.
Good.
Chris, what do you think? I mean, Chris is new to the committee and,
We have probably 2 town meetings before May.
I think it's too quick for the one coming up, obviously, but if there's another one before May, it would be
Yeah.
good. I think we could
December,
get,
January, and
it'd
free
be
cash.
nice if we could do a small bunch in January and another group in May,
fine.
if we can, to the extent some of these have been done, and if they've
Right.
come at least through the select board, we might want to at least run them back through again, since it's obviously been time
Yeah,
for people that won't even remember some of the details before.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So much time has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it would be good to try and aim for the January and May
I
timeframes, if
think
we
that would be
could.
good too, especially since May is such a heavy budget
Yeah.
cycle town meeting. It might be nice to be able to
Okay.
work on some of them for December, January.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Great. Anybody else? No? Well, thank you then. So the next is the awarding of the contract, the Highway Department, the 2020 Freightliner dump plow truck under Greater Boston Police Council Consortium bid for a sum total of $224,785. And there was a lot of paperwork received with a breakdown and all of that. So this is exciting.
Yes, and once the contract's executed, it takes a while to build, so we probably, we'll see the actual truck in probably January, early February timeframe, so.
It's too bad, yeah. Wish we could have it before the snow flies.
Mhm.
Is that not possible, I'm assuming?
Well, I can't say that because a lot of that is weather dependent, so if we had an October snowstorm, I'd say no way in heck. Or if we have a very mild winter and snow doesn't come until the end of January or February, which would be unusual, but you never know. We might still, but.
Is there any way to get it before December? How about that?
No, unfortunately.
Be a little bit more specific.
Does anybody?
I don't like messing with Mother Nature. She always outguesses me.
No, I know, but if you're playing odds, it's before before mid-September. You're in pretty good shape probably, and it'd be nice to. There's no way to expedite or anything like that.
Just one quick question. It looks like some of the things that must be the warranties were crossed off. Is that right? To make the price down from the 120 to 110 on the chassis?
And Randall and I discussed it. I mean, he got the quotes on them to see what they were. We both looked at them and thought that they really weren't worth the money that they were charging us for. So, and the other side of it is, Randall, of course, he lives in town too, but he's on the side of the taxpayers and he tries to be as frugal as possible where he can. So, yes, we felt that rather than purchasing those extended warranties, we were better off fiscally without them.
What's the standard warranty?
I would have to go back and take a look.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's at least a couple of years.
I mean, at the end of the day, the miles don't matter. These trucks actually never accumulate anywhere near those miles.
No,
and so it's really just the year term on them.
But usually they'll do it by miles too, but usually with this type of equipment, it's more, whether you call it minutes or hours of operation, that is wear and tear on them.
What's the life of the transmission in these vehicles?
Well, the whole truck basically a normal lifespan is probably 10 to 12 years. If you get 15 or more out of it, you're doing real well.
In the last truck, we got close to 20.
20,
didn't
exactly.
It almost seems for like $4,100 for the 5-year unlimited for the tranny and 5-year 100,000 miles, it seems like a good bet on a $250,000 truck.
I haven't.
And we have the money, because didn't we appropriate up to $250,000?
Appropriate up to 250. And, I have seen, shall we say, electrical or electronic issues with these types of trucks before, knock on wood, don't jinx myself. I haven't seen all that many issues with, the transmissions or the actual engines themselves. The ones that come turbocharged, I've seen some issues with the turbochargers.
Yeah. I just would hate to see a bill come before here within 5 years. Because if you're fixing one of those, that $850 for the 5-year transmission, you're going to eat that up in, just for a look at it.
Yeah.
I have another question I wanted
It's
to ask.
not a lot of money.
In the end there, it says, this is what concerns me, the very end of it. Let me just find it. I think it's in the... Oh, here it is. Supplement G, it says, a change order may not increase the quantity of goods by more than 25% in compliance with General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 13. Are we talking about the possibility of the change order going up 25%? That could be over $30,000.
These are general templates that we use. So, and in this particular case, no, but it's in there because if you do buy some goods or services, and one that I know of that we did two I know of that did contract amendments to were Labrie Field and also the Conan Park roof, is that, okay, if you don't see something in that contract, you are able to do contract amendments or change orders to it. However, by state statutes, it's specifying out for everyone that, okay, those shall not, if they do occur, they shall not exceed 25% of what the value of the original contract was.
So what's the range that this could be over 224 then?
Well, with this, we're sealed at 250 no matter what.
Okay.
Because that's our appropriation.
Yeah, but they have to stick to their quote.
Well, they have
I don't
to
get
stick-
what would be a change order. This
Well,
is like a saleable item.
If something came up down the road and they said, for whatever reason, Randall said, oh God, I forgot to put a spotlight on this truck, and said, okay, can you add a spotlight or something like that?
Yeah, but it's not. This doesn't allow the company to come back in the absence of an issue like that to be like, oh, we made a mistake on quoting this out. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like
$30,000 above the budget.
No, but I mean,
So that doesn't mean that they can come back to upwards of 25%?
no,
No.
shouldn't.
No.
That's just a basic
Yeah.
30B law,
Okay,
general, yeah.
okay.
I mean, back to John's thing. I've been mulling this over. It's really not a lot of money for those warranties.
And if it's still under budget by over $25,000, what was the thinking around?
Well, it wouldn't be if we added them back in. It wouldn't. It would be under budget by $16,000 or $15. Call it $15,000.
Well,
Well, what was the original thinking?
well,
Not having a warranty?
Yeah, you're right.
It wasn't necessary, the chances
that
are?
the
it's not gonna be-
chances are low of utilizing it.
No, so we're not going to spend, because the cost of this, I'm creating argument here, not, I don't know, I think I know where I'm leaning, but I'm happy to be knocked off my pins here a little bit. I mean, the cost of the warranty is
$10,000.
basically $10,000, and it really covers the truck for unlimited for 5 years, because we're never going to exceed 100,000 miles. These trucks won't exceed 100,000 miles in their useful life here.
Correct.
So basically, what the bet is that we're not going to spend $10,000 on this truck in 5 years, which I think I would argue. But
Well, don't forget, it's not $10,000 in maintenance. It is $10,000 in defects.
I understand
Or so-
that.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand the difference. It's not oil changes and belts and wear and tear. I get that.
Yeah.
And just,
And the flip side of it is, okay, we do need other equipment also.
Yeah.
So let's just say, what is our ability, or I won't say ability, what is our tolerance of the taxpayers to bond and borrow?
Taxpayers approved $250,000.
Well, they did, but guess what? We're not going to use $250,000, so.
but we can't buy anything else with it.
Well, no, but you're only going to put on your bonding capacity
Right.
the 224 rather than putting on 240. So that means, okay, that's $14,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, no, I see that point.
What warranty comes with this very expensive truck?
Yeah, that's what we asked.
That's the question. What warranty comes with
If you don't buy the extra ones, what is the warrant? There's got to be a
I don't
standard
see
one.
this. We have a big itemized bill here from Power Windows to you know what, and it doesn't say, I don't see in here where it says basic warranty.
Let's see.
Because this MHQ one is the people that are building all the parts to it, right? So they're the ones that are building the.
Well, yeah,
equipment
they're
that goes with it.
doing the upfitting. They'll put the body on the truck because basically we're buying a cab and a chassis.
Yeah, that's the cheap part of it.
Anyway, it's funny because I've done it both ways, and usually the body is, the upfitter part is probably the less expensive of it. But in this particular case, when you get into, the dump body, the plows, and everything else that.
Yeah. I mean, we upgraded the transmission for an additional, looks like additional $6,700. So to cover it for 5 years for $850 sounds like a good deal.
That's why I asked what the life of the transmission would be in a vehicle like this.
Depends who's driving it and what they're doing with it. If they're plowing and hitting banks, and that affects the tranny.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. For winter use. I don't see anything where it says standard warranty.
No.
It's got to have something, but is it a year or 3 or,
Most warranties are for 3 years.
But this is a heavy duty.
Yeah, it's a
so
commercial.
I wonder if that's the same,
No.
I don't know.
Well, then, we need to find
It might come with no warranty.
Yeah.
'cause if it's-
Do we want to put this off until we find out?
I don't know if I want to put it off. We need this truck. I wish we had done this sooner.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be down a truck in the winter, just to, like that. I don't think that truck that we're trading in is usable, is it?
Maybe we can get a loaner.
I wouldn't want to use it a lot, but in a pinch, yeah, we can use it.
We're not going to sink any money into it, though, right? Like it runs right now.
Yeah, if something major went wrong with it, I would not recommend putting a lot of money into it to put it back on the road.
Is there anything here? No warranty.
So just I'm assuming you're texting Randall. Like,
Yep.
Does anybody have any thoughts on this warranty besides John and I?
Well, my thought about it is I get a warranty for my new car and I only spend, $30,000. So if this vehicle has absolutely no warranty, I'm concerned about that.
Oh, it
So-
comes with a standard warranty, so
Gotta have
it's
something
not
standard,
it's
something
not
what it
that
is.
you're getting nothing.
Okay,
I think
well, it's
what's
not,
been crossed
we've got
off
an
is
itemized
extended.
bill down to bulbs and it doesn't say anything about a warranty, so I don't know what that is and what it covers and what we're paying for it.
Yeah, if it's only a year, that's just not even broken in after a year. Yeah.
No, but you would get you'd presumably get the manufacturing defects for the most part out of it, wouldn't you think?
The recalls.
But the warranty will cover if it breaks down too, if the tranny
Yeah, I know.
blows
No, I
internal
know.
gears or whatever. Yeah.
Do you want to come back to it in a couple minutes?
Yeah.
3 year 50,000 should be.
3 years, 50,000 miles.
And that's, so when they say the other value is.
Yeah, and actually Randall says,
1 year,
warranties, we've had no trouble on any of our trucks in the first couple of years. Seemed like a lot of money to me.
Okay, the basic is 3 year,
50.
50 month, And then, so you can upgrade by paying $47.50 to get, it would be 5 years. So that's the
You're getting
$693.
for 2 years for $3,300.
Right.
That's on the engine, yeah.
No, that's just
I
the
mean,
engine.
I'm just using that as an example.
No, I'm asking if the current warranty is, the step-up version is number 693, basic vehicle, 5-year, 100,000 as opposed to 3-year, 5,000.
50,000. But again,
Yeah, right,
Yeah, the second
the
one.
lines,
So this
yeah.
is
Basic vehicle,
value.
5-year,
Extended
100,000.
by 2 more years and 50,000 more miles.
For
And you can
4,700.
pay $47.50.
Right.
But it's the same coverage as this extended warranty, correct?
Yes.
So you get 3 years, 50 with the price of the vehicle.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
like Matt said,
now I'm
the-
suddenly,
yeah, the 50 doesn't matter, it's the 3 years, so that's a good warranty.
I think that's fine.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Good with that. I just have a question. Since there's two companies, if I'm understanding, you've got the one company that's providing the chassis, and then the second
That's
company
normally
that's
3 years
that's
or 50.
outfitting it, right? So I assume these two companies have a history of working together? I mean, what control does ATG have over the company that's putting it all together? I mean, how does it,
ATG is who we contract.
but who's this
With-
MHQ then?
MHQ would be their subcontractor.
Subcontractor.
Correct.
So they would be in charge of sort of monitoring
Yes.
how well
So
they
if
get
they-
it together. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Are people more comfortable now with the idea of a 3-year warranty?
I'd like to see it on the document, but I don't want to hold it up. But like, it doesn't say 3 years, 50, we're right? I'm not missing something here. It doesn't say that anywhere.
No,
on
we
this.
On the
don't, we
paper
don't
we
have
have.
the warranty documents.
So why don't you make the motion that we accept it conditional upon it, the written warranty comes with it for 3 years, 50?
Yeah,
I'll make that motion.
make it.
I'll make
You
that
just
motion.
did. I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What's the condition?
That we see the warrant, that we see the
And we get a
warranty
written
that the
warranty
vehicle
for
comes
3
with.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just, we get every other detail possible in this vehicle, except the fact that there comes with a,
We want the
Warranty.
warranty detail that comes with the
we just
vehicle.
crossed out all the other warranties, so anyway, everybody's good?
Yep.
Okay, the next item is the town administrator evaluation. So I think I've explained the process many times. We got feedback from the town.
Before you do that, you want to take 5?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I need a
Thank you very
stretch.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Need to get a drink.
We got a break?
Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is a continuation of the September 17th Select Board meeting, and we're at the point of the town administrator evaluation. So like I mentioned before, we received feedback from department heads who report to Ed. Thank you very much. It was great feedback. The Select Board individually created an evaluation. I combined the evaluation by simply averaging all the scores and combining all the comments. I did meet with Ed because, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's very unusual for people to get at a public evaluation. And so we're going to review the actual evaluation with the comments at each of the sections and then discuss the goals. But just so you know, this is not new information for Ed. And I just want to start by saying how much we appreciate all you do. It's very clear to all of us that you are extremely hardworking and you're very dedicated to the town of Southampton, and I just want to say how much we appreciate all you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yep. We know that you work extremely hard, and I've done a lot of evaluations either through being a teacher and also being a manager, and I find that a lot of times people's upsides are the downsides, so that if there's something that is something that's developmental or something constructive for feedback, number one, you hear that 10 times louder sometimes than all the positive feedback. So I just want to say that we are very sincere in all the very positive feedback, and we consider this evaluation to be very positive. And that sometimes the downside is because, it's your upside as well. So anyway, I hope that that makes sense. So we're going to go through and do this evaluation, and the scores, just so you know, this is a process too that was laid out by PQB, which we followed. And so this is a scoring of 10 job areas, and people are rated from not applicable or rarely meets the expectation to consistently exceeds expectations, which is 5. And so the scores for Ed, all of them were above 3. 3 is meets expectations, and the average of all the scores of all the sections of all the select board is a 4.0, which is often exceeds expectations. So again, thank you very much, and John will start by reviewing the first couple of sections.
Okay. First one is job performance, rating 4.0. The examples are Ed clearly has the knowledge and experience required to perform his job at the highest level. He successfully executed all documents required for the acquisition of properties and grants, in parens, bridge and road improvements, as well as supporting documentation for meetings, elections, etc. The work Ed produces is always of high professional quality. An area for improvement would be that Ed would delegate everyday responsibilities to supporting town personnel appropriately. The goal of better delegation and utilization of personnel would be to continuously move Southampton's larger projects and ones only he can perform as a town administrator more efficiently. Second one is job knowledge, rating 4.4. Examples, Ed's very knowledgeable in a number of areas from town bylaws, municipal finance, and contract negotiations to understanding relevant sections of the Mass General Law and state grant / reimbursement processes. Ed has brought a lot of excellent knowledge and expertise to the TA position.
Okay, the next section, personnel management, the rating is 3.75. And examples include Ed certainly leads by example. He is always professional and courteous. He performs his job with integrity and fairness. He holds regular department head meetings and is a resource to staff. Ed has the challenge of managing some long-term employees, some newer, less experienced department heads, and working with some employees whose duties are overseen by elected boards. Ed does a very good job of working with various staff. He looks to find middle ground. He demonstrates sincere appreciation for work performed by others. Areas of improvement would be increased leadership and mentoring of some employees, creating opportunities for collaboration among department heads, and the completion of annual evaluations. The next section is fiscal management. The rating is 4.2. Ed does an excellent job operating the town within budget and conveys this expectation to every town employee. He is knowledgeable about budgets, line items, rationale for budget priorities, and their impact on the overall town budget. It can be very difficult to get information from various staff and committees during the budget process. Although the budget process has been refined and presented in a much better format and timely manner than in the past, there is still an opportunity for improvement by securing department budget requests earlier and continuing to work on 5- and 10-year capital plans.
5 time management,
Yeah.
5 time management examples. It is clear, rating 3.3. It is clear that Ed works extremely hard and puts in long days. The workload has been high with many unanticipated projects and several grant programs requiring lots of correspondence, documents, and deadlines. Ed has worked hard to meet deadlines and has been successful with the exception of the recent annual report. Likely the volume of work, limited hours of support staff, and difficulty retrieving reports from boards played a role in this delay. Ed conducts regular department meetings to facilitate communication and coordination. He keeps staff and the select board informed of scheduling issues and events. Time management, organization, and appropriate delegation of tasks are Ed's biggest opportunity for improvement. A review of systems might identify ways to reduce the number of hours worked, create opportunities for more delegation of tasks that are outside his job description, and develop the roles and skills of other employees. Number 6, communication, rating 4.4. Examples, Ed maintains timely and appropriate communication with the departments, select board, and the community at large. For example, he made a presentation to the senior citizens regarding the ballot questions in our most recent election to ensure their understanding of the issues being considered. He also speaks up at town meetings to explain various articles and answer any questions. In collaboration with the police and fire chiefs, he puts out code red notices when needed. He keeps the select board and town hall personnel apprised of his schedule. One suggestion would be for Ed to identify backup plans during his absences. The select board hears from Ed through all forms of communication as appropriate, email, text, and phone, and appreciates the timely communication.
Okay. The seventh one is teamwork. The rating is 4.2. Ed has demonstrated his commitment and dedication to the town of Southampton. He does a good job having to juggle many departments and personalities. His door is always open, and his responses are professional and courteous. Ed has worked well with the Select Board on many initiatives and projects. He has been a big help to many department heads, committees, and employees, for example, the Highway, Stormwater, and the CPC Conant Roof. With his knowledge and experience, Ed has earned the respect of many residents and employees. Number 8, problem solving. The overall rating is 4.0. Ed works very hard to solve a number of problems. He has been a big help in addressing this East Street Bridge contract, the union contracts, the HVAC system, town generator, boilers at Norris, HRHS budget, and many CPC projects. He often has alternate solutions and ideas based on his prior experience. He does not appear to be taken off guard by difficult situations, and he always appears calm and in control with a plan to resolve the issue. Number 9, creativity and initiative. The rating is 3.8. Ed has demonstrated a willingness to explore many new initiatives, such as the Cannabis Host Agreement, the land grant, and the CPA borrowing and funding. He takes the initiative to research solutions for department heads, employees, the select board, and the public.
And the last one is above and beyond, and this is perhaps his strongest score, 4.6. There is no question that Ed goes above and beyond in his work. He frequently puts in long hours at work and has the best interests of the town at heart. His job description comprises a number of administrative, procurement, personnel, and financial management responsibilities, and he's demonstrated knowledge and proficiency in all those areas. Ed is extremely hardworking and dedicated. Ed noted above, there are opportunities to reassign tasks and delegate some work to support staff. He has voluntarily attended several committee meetings, open space, CPC, finance, PQB, the Hampshire Regional Town Meeting, and has contributed important information. Ed has also attended a number of town events, such as the Memorial Day Parade, doing trail maintenance, and Celebrate Southampton. His work on the land purchases, East Street Bridge Host Agreement, and Glendale Road projects have been outstanding. So we discussed some goals. There were 4 goals that Ed had actually proposed in his self-evaluations. So the first 4 are his. Work with PQB to make the human resource rules and regulations more efficient in the town bylaws during fiscal year 2020. Improve the town hall network, that's the server reliability, and expand the use of IT systems, both internally and externally. That's also fiscal year 2020. Utilize the DOER Green Community Grant for the Norris School, Town Hall, and other town facilities to reduce our energy usage and cost in the most efficient manner possible. Substantiate savings for the grant. His professional development includes a number of things: belong and attend to the small town administrators meetings, be a member of the MAPPO for municipal procurement officials, attend the Mass Municipal Association meetings when possible, belong to the Mass Municipal Personnel Association, read bulletins sent out by these organizations as well as various associations which are pertinent to the municipal management, and attend conferences and seminars sponsored by the Department of Revenue and Mass Emergency Management and other state agencies, research issues online, and participate in trainings. The Select Board, as an additional, has put forth 6 goals, and so maybe I'll start with you, Chris, and you can, we'll share the reading of these also.
Okay. Would you like me to do the first 2, or
Yeah.
just kind of?
Sure.
So these would be the Select Board goals for the town administrator under job performance and personnel management. Number 1 is to review the town administrator office, organization, and duties. Identify and delineate tasks that can regularly be delegated to support staff, such as the TA, administrative assistant, and the custodian. Work towards more efficiency and delegation, and to try and do this by a deadline of October 31st of 2019. The second part of that is to complete evaluations of all direct report employees by June 30th of 2020.
You want me to go?
Yep.
Fiscal management, number 3. Work with department heads and evaluate staffing, infrastructure, and equipment. Develop a town-wide 5- and 10-year plan March 31st, 2020. And you want me to do?
Fiscal management and creativity and initiative. Create a purchase order system that affords the town administrator the ability to review all requests for expenses before they occur, with the exception of payroll, benefits, and other similar obligations, by March 31st, 2020. Identify and recommend funding for grant writing assistance in order to begin monitoring and applying for state and federal grants to benefit Southampton by 12/31/19. And activate a partnership with the Easthampton Chamber of Commerce. Explore and publicize small business opportunities for Southampton by March 31st, 2020.
So like I said, Ed, the total score in summary comes out to be a 4, which is, exceptional, and we're very grateful, often exceeds expectations. So just want to say thank you again for all you do.
Yeah.
You're very welcome, and thank you. It's been a pleasure for roughly a year and a half of being here. Everybody's been wonderful and reaching out to me and making me feel welcome.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
So, Rini, just a question, is there a period where Ed can ask us questions on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he has any, but it seems like it would be,
I've got about 3 pages.
Actually,
Perfect.
when we met, you made some good points, and I was hoping that you would comment on a few things, and I do want you specifically to comment on one of the goals, but go ahead and just, is there any part of this that you want to address specifically? I think job knowledge was extremely high, going above and beyond. The developmental areas really are, as much as we appreciate you having your tools in your pocket, we would actually prefer that that be delegated to the custodian and to develop some of the capacity of the support staff, because I know your workload is so high, and there's a lot of, but I know what it's like too, you like to knock those things off your list, whether it's putting a bench together or whatever, but hanging maps, appreciate it, but.
Well, don't forget, we only have the custodian 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So he does not have a lot of time outside of the regular cleanings and whatever. So I am also mindful of the fact that our maintenance budget here is not, in my opinion, where it should be. So doing things internally rather than hiring out does save some money.
Or presenting for the next fiscal year an increase in those services.
Yeah, but I understand why you say those things, and I accept them. I will just put this one little caveat into that one category, is that I still am very civic or community-minded, whether it's where I live or actually where I work. So I hope what I do on my own time, whether that's nights, weekends, or off the clock, as far as communities, what I call community service projects, whether that be doing trail maintenance or trying to repair some park building or whatever, you will not count that against me.
Not in the least. We're grateful to see you marching the parade with us, and I certainly appreciated you doing trail maintenance when it was 90 million degrees, so no, we're happy to have that. We're talking about the day-to-day.
Yeah, I understand. I understand fully, so I hear where you're coming from.
Do people have questions of Ed or comments? Bless you.
Bless you.
excuse me, that wasn't a comment. No,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I enjoy working with Ed, and I think the issue of, he tries to take on too much and do all that work is probably the only negative, if you will, because, you go in his office and, I'm sure he knows where everything is, but I feel bad for him because he's always here so many hours, so. But if he's doing it as a volunteer, I'm fine with that.
No, and I just want to compliment Ed. I think one of his areas of creativity is that he's able to do what's expected of him in ensuing years with less and less resources available to him. So I see that as someone being able to do the same with less as being a creative individual. Thank you.
I try my best.
I also think that, I feel badly if Kathy has another commitment and we don't have someone to do minutes. There are ways that we, I'm hoping that we could have a backup person who could do that, because I know that that takes time for you taking notes and then transferring it to Judy and then watching the video. And so it might be nice if we can find ways to help you in that, as opposed to say, you're doing things that are maybe outside your job description.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple opportunities in that arena, so.
Can you speak to one of the items we mentioned as a goal? And also, I'm hoping that we can put on the agenda for maybe in a few months to kind of review some of the goals, just so that they stay on our agenda, literally. But there was something that you sent to me, and you mentioned something about, this was one of the things that Francine, who has experience on the Finance Committee, had talked about, is creating a purchase order system. Mm-hmm. I can see the advantage of that, where individual department heads are submitting requests, and you have the bigger picture where you can see the possibility for savings across departments that other departments might not see. And so the goal was to create a purchase order system that affords the town administrator the ability to review all requests for expenses before they occur, with the obviously exception of payroll, benefits, and similar things that we wouldn't want to hold up. But you mentioned about a computer system or a computer software program.
Our financial, I have not directly used our financial software program here under SoftWrite, so I'm not sure how advanced or how antiquated it is. I did use SoftWrite back in West Springfield, but we had a fairly new package of it back then, where you could actually set certain criterias in your PO system to not only create purchase orders, but encumbrances. But you had certain levels of individuals that had to approve those, all the way up to the mayor at the highest levels. So I'm not familiar with what we can currently do with, SoftWrite. So I will get together with Vicki Morrow, our town accountant, and try to familiarize ourselves with that. See what is available to do through our SoftWrite system. It may be time to update that financial system, whether it's through SoftWrite or some other company. I know that both Vicki and Jen Day have been talking about possibly changing or what we do use and finding something more modern. I know that they're going to go to a seminar. I think it's in about a week for another company. So it may be time that we need to invest in that too, rather than just doing it all manually. But if we can do some of that electronically, so you can create them and view them, and that will make it definitely a heck of a lot easier to do that. But there may not be a whole heck of a lot of opportunities of getting people to combine some things, but even if there's a few, and if we can save some money or whatever, I think there's definitely an advantage to that too.
But I also think the department heads report to you. And I think that as a CFO, I think that you have our support as a select board to oversee this. There have been purchases that have concerned us that we find out after the fact. So I think this is also to say in a goal that you have our support and authority to actually create a system where there's oversight by you, who's the CFO and these department heads report to.
Understandable, and actually, it's also a good way to check on procurement issues before they come up. Because actually, when I had last checked with the IG's office, as far as what we had delegated for procurement hierarchy, I don't remember any of our department heads being actually authorized to spend more than $10,000, at least on the contractual end of things. So it'll be a good way to update that portion of it also.
Okay. So we'll put on the agenda to revisit some of these goals, maybe sort of quarterly, or at least discuss where we're at with some of these things, okay? And some of them were intentionally because they're budgetary, pushed into the budget time of year in the spring, because it might be difficult to complete any of them until then.
Well, I'll scare the heck out of you, because it just dawned on me too, is that basically the start of the budget season is just about here, because at the end of this month, I'll be looking to send out, actually, the capital requests are supposed to come in before the operating budget requests, so I'll be sending out those notifications before very long.
I'm guessing the capital committee will be very happy about that.
We will be, actually. We will be. No, I mean that sincerely.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would love to see these things early.
And I might try pushing that template out, which is made for a 5-year plan, out to 10, and
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
and then not, and maybe years 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are just draft at this point in time. But I was actually very happy with the thought process that the department heads put into actually doing that 5-year plan.
I agree.
Last year.
A lot of them actually went beyond that, too.
Yeah, they did.
I remember.
So and that will be very helpful for the town in planning for going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, when we had our meeting in Westhampton, I know it was snowing, so I think it was in January or February. Remember, there was a date. Now, is there anything we can do to get the numbers from the school earlier rather than later?
Well, what, are you talking Hampshire Regional School?
Yeah.
Yeah, what they were talking about doing is kind of convening meetings earlier and using the numbers that they had from last year just to start the process earlier.
Yeah.
Which would help.
It would help immensely. I mean, getting the school numbers is always, well, in small and mid-sized communities, it's anywhere usually between 50 and 60% of your budget. So if you can get them earlier, the better. It really helps in the planning. But some years that is extremely challenging to get that done.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure Francine and Matt and Tammy can all be on board with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much.
No, thank you all.
Appreciate everything.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Ed.
Special town meeting, October 22nd. Everybody has that on the calendar, I hope.
Yep.
Invitation to open event for Rockwood Ag Grid Digester, September 25th, 11 to 2, Rockwood Farms, Granville, Mass, Cow Power, net metering credits. This contract was transitioned over to them when Hampshire Council of Governments dissolved, and Hampshire Power ended up transitioning over. Did I get that all right?
Yes, and this is actually the physical plant that our net metering credits come from, and we just started receiving them, I think, about a month or so ago on our Eversource bill, so they're having a grand opening. So if any of you are interested, let me or Judy know. We can RSVP for you. I'm going to try to make it. Also.
And they're going to have a speaking program, and
yes.
Sounds very interesting. So people can contact Ed if you're able. Any other necessary business that can't wait until October 1st? Do you want to look at the dates, or I don't think we did that. Right now, there's only a meeting October 1st and the 22nd. We talked about possibly having a Board of Health meeting, so that, do you think we can just get away with the 3 of them? Are there other business? We have to approve articles for the warrant, right?
Well, basically at the October 1st one, I will have the actual warrant back and written for your signatures, and hopefully I won't have to amend it on the fly that evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait to hear about the combined meeting with the Board of Health. Do you think that will be enough? That's basically skipping over 2 weeks before we get to the 3rd week of the 22nd and having a meeting for an hour before.
We can hope so, and depending on when that joint meeting is with the Board of Health, I mean, worst case scenario, I suppose we could have always, if something came up that was, really urgent, we could add a few items onto that one.
Can we see if we can get those PCFs onto the next meeting so that we don't sit there and,
My memory, I'll have to go back and look, but my memory was, I believe, the Finance Committee's meeting.
well, John,
Next week.
What'd you say the Finance
think so.
Committee meeting
Yeah.
is?
What I-
When's the Finance Committee meeting?
Next Monday.
Monday.
Okay, yeah.
I would be more in favor, because I know that something's going to come up here, and you know, so I don't want to have personally, I don't want to have two meetings, one for the Board of Health and one to tie up loose ends before town meeting. Like, what's the absolute drop dead end date?
The
for
Board of
the
Health.
No, for the town meeting, and then we box in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Board of
yeah.
Health into that
14
time.
days.
The 14th? Or
Oh,
wait, what?
14 days, correct? 2 weeks?
Yes, correct.
What's the drop dead date? So it's what? Town meeting's on the 22nd.
Yep.
So 2 weeks before that is the 8th, which means that, I mean, we really should be holding, and we have a meeting on the 2nd, or no, the 1st.
First, yeah.
So it's gonna have to be the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, right? Do we all agree? Or the 7th?
So the 8th is too late because they have,
The 8th is too late, right? So it's gotta be 2nd, 3rd, or 4th
Right.
for the Board of Health. And then we
Second
tie
or
up all
third,
of our
not the
loose ends
4th.
at that point.
It's a Friday.
Yeah.
No.
Is that your day off?
No,
Really,
it's
like, that's
closed.
really-
Town hall's closed.
You
So-
can't have a meeting when it's closed?
I don't believe so.
No?
we did post the Board of
It's
Health.
posted,
and-
I hope she's all right. I'm just frustrated by that, but, yeah.
You can't
Posted
post a
for
meeting if the system
It's
shuts
posted
down.
beforehand.
Yeah, but I mean, so,
Yeah.
That's the only option?
Do
We can't wait until the 8th to have a meeting, so if we're talking about scheduling a meeting with the Board of Health, and she's not available on the 1st,
Well,
and
you
they
can't-
want her to be present,
Yeah, I mean, you can't, if we do not have, and I'm hoping we don't, any loose ends to tie up for the special town meeting, then you could meet on the 8th, 9th, or whatever, just for the Board of Health piece.
Business.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we can't plan on that, and we have to post this meeting, and
Well, doesn't the 8th meet the 14-day requirement?
Has to be posted that day.
right,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
And we don't meet till night,
14 days
right.
before.
yeah.
that means we have to meet before, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, changing it to the 2nd or 3rd, there's no guarantee. We don't know her work schedule. She's working Tuesday night. She may also be working Wednesday and Thursday.
What about the 7th? The 1st and the 7th and the 22nd?
When does the Board of Health meet, at night or in the
no,
day?
we're not talking about actually
Usually meet-
scheduling this. We need to hear from the Board of Health.
Right.
Well, I'm just
Right,
saying that
right,
we're
but-
limited to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or the 7th at the absolute latest. That is really it for the Board of Health to be able to.
Well, why don't we let Ed know right now what our availability is, because I'd hate to have them come and say, we can, she's off this day, and then us not having a quorum. But, John, what were you saying?
What night does the Board of Health meet at nights? And so,
Well, usually at Tuesday nights.
so we got to ask her about her Tuesday nights if she's always
She
working.
works every other Tuesday night, is what I was told, but it just so happens to be our opposite Tuesday night. So she came to the board meeting when I was there, but then she's not able to be here tonight and then again on the 1st, because it's 2 weeks away from right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the Board of Health usually meets over our meetings, so she's never going to be able to go to a
Yeah.
Board of Health meeting.
The 7th, I've got a COMCON meeting, so
Maybe they'll
same
change
time.
it for their members. I'm sorry, you have a COMCOM meeting?
The 7th is usually COMCON at 6 o'clock, same
And
time.
zoning at 7.
And that's for the 7th, so the 7th is out.
What about
And
the
let-
2nd and 3rd?
I can't do the 3rd.
Hey, anybody got the 2nd?
Well, can anybody else do, well, I'd like to kind of be there, but
Second's
I can
okay
do
with
the
me.
2nd.
I can do the 2nd. That's only an extra day, but,
why don't we just change our meeting to the
yeah,
2nd?
exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, we would do that if they can commit to that.
So-
That would be our first choice. Instead of meeting on the 1st, let's plan to meet on the 2nd and hope that she's going to be available.
Yes,
And can you ask Charlie Kinnicky if he can be available?
on the 2nd.
Are we allowed to discuss this without them present, or should we discuss this without them present?
Oh, we're just discussing meeting dates.
No, I understand that, but should we also discuss our opinions on this, since it's on the agenda, or not?
I think out of a courtesy, since it was a posted meeting, I'd feel a little uncomfortable about
All right.
discussing
That's
our,
fine.
without, I mean, I can
Yeah.
wait.
So the 3rd, you're not there, Rini, right? Now, the 7th, who can't make it on the 7th?
Well, they both have meetings, one earlier,
But if we,
COMCON is normally at 6 o'clock.
Concom and then
Yeah, and
zoning.
school.
zoning.
Is the second not good?
And it's the school.
Oh, second's good for me.
No second.
I mean, I can't, I'm not, I'm gonna do everything I can to make the meeting, but I can't commit to any of those dates right now.
So
I've
let's,
got conflicts on every single one
Other
of those
than
dates.
the first?
Well, yeah, because I've already boxed in the first.
Yeah.
And that's a normal meeting date, and I've built that into my life.
yeah, if it helps,
Just have a full life right now, I can't.
Okay, and I think, I don't know, there's a point that I feel like,
I have a
their
lot of
appointee
family
wasn't available
responsibilities
tonight,
and
she's not available on the first one. We usually meet, I mean, there's only a certain amount that I'm going to be changing our 5-person meeting schedule for the availability of appointee.
I mean, I have no issue with meeting like at 5 o'clock if that helps anybody,
Yeah. What day are we talking about?
whatever you want.
Okay.
I could do
I
that.
mean, if you wanted to wait until the 7th,
My
I could.
preference would be the first or second.
Okay. I'm good on either one, so.
Yeah.
I'm good on either one also.
Okay, can you get back to us?
Sure.
I
As
think
a,
Shelley's going to be in touch with you.
as a
Yes.
alternative, would the 7th at 5 o'clock work?
I can do the 7th, it's them that I
Well,
was,
she has a 7
I'm
o'clock,
fine.
and she has a 6
I could do a
o'clock.
5 o'clock on the
Yeah, I
7th.
could do a 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, first, second, or 7th?
At 5, at
at
7.
5
At
on
5.
the 7th.
Yeah. Okay. That's some options.
And then after that, it would just be the 6 o'clock at the school, an hour before, and hopefully there wouldn't be too much
Yep.
rushed agenda. Okay, any other business that can't wait? We're good? And we already did the PCFs. Did someone say there was a new? Okay, there's a new PCF form that was informational only. Any questions about that?
I think we've got a couple PRFs that do have complete signatures, don't we?
No,
No.
they're crossed out.
Finance
None of them were
hasn't
done
signed,
by-
Crossed out.
finance hasn't signed off on any of these.
They're all crossed out on the agenda.
They were
So-
all missing finance.
Yep. No, there's one that has
Water department,
finance, and that's the water department.
But that was actually before
The
our
issues of
last meeting, so I know PPP went over it again, but I don't
Okay,
believe finance. In
Okay.
fact, I know finance hasn't.
okay.
Okay, we have a one-day beer and wine, Kona Park, September 28th. Michelle Sattler. The paperwork is all complete.
Yes, everything's in order. Police chief has no issues with it.
Everybody get that in their packet?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, anybody comfortable making a motion?
Move to approve Miss Sattler's one-day beer and wine permit on September 28th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This
Next, the
person
warrants.
is not a Southampton resident.
Right, so that's why the fee is higher.
Okay,
Yep, the fee is an old form.
Bill
all
sign
right.
this.
Assuming you're using up the old forms.
Yes, they are. They're frugal.
Good for you.
And sign first here.
But I saw
Yeah.
that too, it's out
Sign
of
the same
town.
line.
Yeah.
Warrants, I think John signed off on
Stretch it out.
one, and you did a couple?
Okay, I'll read them. P20-10A, a payroll warrant for $417.12. A payroll deduction warrant, PD 20-10A, for $53.16. And then a vendor warrant, W 20-11, for $90,460.01. And I thank John for coming in and signing all these.
You're welcome.
Yep. He did the hard work.
Any questions about the warrant? We already, other documents, we already did the interim loan note for the water department, and the other one is the select board to sign the 5-town shared contract for scanning grant, shared employee.
And there was some, as you may remember me saying previously, there was some funding left over from the grant that actually got us the scanners and the programs, the software programs to work with the city of Northampton. So they went back to the state and asked if they could use that funding to hire a consultant to come in and do some scanning in the 5 different towns that share this. So the state said yes, so we have 150 hours for each of those 5 communities that we can utilize. So we have that 5-town consulting contract here to be approved tonight, and it just requires the signature of the chair.
That's fantastic. We need a motion, though, if someone wants to make a motion to.
I read it, so I'll make a motion, we accept it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have minutes to approve. There are 3 minutes. The first is October 16th.
I have one small correction on that one.
We're talking about the October one first?
Yeah, October 16th. It's actually under appointments on the part where I was apparently introducing myself. It says it implies that I used to own the Fletcher farm, which is not true.
I didn't do those minutes.
So it just says,
Boy, that was quick, Kevin.
Take any
Did you reference the line?
full detail.
yeah, sorry, it's after the third bullet point. It begins with Chris Fowles, introduce herself.
Under appointments.
So has been in town for many years, located at the Fletcher farm that used to be the Fowles farm or something. I mean, just cross out the used to own.
Okay, so
Yeah.
cross out, used to own.
Change it
Got
to something else. I don't care what.
So current Fletcher Farm, which used to
Current
be.
Fletcher farm, yeah. Current Fletcher farm used to be the Fowles farm. That's fine.
Thank you.
Any other amendments or edits? Someone want to make a motion then for these ones?
I move to accept the minutes of with the amendment of October 16th, 2018.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Rini, I'm going to abstain since I wasn't a member.
Okay, sure. I'm realizing that we're in order. Chris abstained. I was realizing that went back almost a year ago. The next one is December 20th, 2018. Any comments on that?
No.
Motion then?
I'll make a motion, we accept as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You're seconding it?
Yes.
Okay, that's December 20th, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain again.
Okay. And the last one is September 3rd, this year. I do have one addition. Under Select Board reports, the second one, my piece, it says COE meeting tomorrow. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony at Conan Park.
Yeah.
I would
what
just
was
add
that?
pickleball
Thank you.
courts.
I didn't know what it was for.
Yep.
And I reviewed the tape and I did not get that from the tape either. Thank you.
Yep. And then there's one other one further down where it says Newtown bylaw mandatory recycling. The fourth line, it says, this is for all town residents and is unknown at this time who will enforce that.
Right.
I just wanted to ask if that was where we were at the last meeting. We asked that question. We asked that question. I don't know if Randall had said the Board of Health. I think that's actually the way it was presented, because the next line says the Board of Health has jurisdiction over the trash haulers in town. I don't think it was clarified that it was the Board of Health that had the authority, at least at the time last time.
Mhm. So we're just gonna leave that one the way it is in there? Okay.
There was something I wanted to bring up if we're at a break point here.
On
that I
this,
forgot.
on these
No,
minutes?
not on the minutes. Not on the minutes. Once we
Oh.
go through the minutes.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as amended.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Ed, does this bring all the minutes up to date now for the Board of Select?
No, we still have some
Select
more to do, yes.
Pardon me?
We still have more to do.
Are they going way back, or is it more the current ones you need to do?
There are some that go back fairly far.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
think,
just make a suggestion?
yeah.
On those meetings that I do have to miss and I am not here, I'm more than willing to like watch the recording and take those minutes for you guys if you want to help Ed. So that way we're not going back and doing minutes from 2018, almost a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's up to you guys if you want me to do that, but I'd be more than willing, you know,
Why don't
because
we
there's
do
gonna be
that?
times where I am going to miss
Minutes,
meetings,
Judy.
you know, because of my work schedule. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so just let me know.
Okay. And just note that I abstained, I abstained. I did not vote
Okay.
on
Thank
September
you.
3rd.
Ed, maybe you had said when I mentioned it before about
That's a
kind of
good idea.
delegating, you had said you had a couple of, kind of ideas. So if you want to put that forth in another
That's a good
time,
idea.
let us know what your preference would
Let
be.
her
But
do
thank
the
you very
meetings.
much, Kathy. That's be a big help. And I had received, I think Lucy had sent out an email basically letting all the departments know that they have to stay up on minutes. And there were quite a few. We just approved one tonight in the 1220s. So according to the list I have here, there's a couple in March, a couple in April, one in May, two in June, one in July. So there's a number of them. I don't know if those were times that you weren't here or whatever, but let us
I think
know.
all of the meetings I have done have been approved.
Yes, they are.
I don't think there's any I am missing.
So with the ones approved tonight, I would have to say there's probably 8.
So as long as they were recorded, Kathy can go in remotely whenever she has a chance.
Problem is if they weren't.
And just take them up.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Good solution.
Yep. So I don't know if Judy's currently working on some of them.
She is. I'll let Kathy know which
Okay,
ones not
okay,
to look
good.
at.
All right, thank you.
Don't duplicate it.
Okay, Matt, do you want to say something?
Yeah, this came across, Charlie sent this out to all of us on September 6th, and it caught my eye. It was, I just want to make sure that, it's a grant, so grants are important just to try to mitigate some of the issues that we have. But basically, he sent it out. It's from MEMA, and it's additional monies that are provided through a grant that are meant to basically mitigate like storms. And he expressed it's a new round of funding, so it's in addition to what was already out there. And projects that are eligible are reduction of natural hazard damage, such as stormwater drainage, culvert improvements, floodplain, stream restoration, flood control, property acquisition, slope stabilization, aquifer storage. It even mentions power generators for critical facilities. And I'm more or less bringing this up because nothing major comes to my mind, but you folks have been here longer, and I just want to make sure that we're talking about these things as they come across, because it's an opportunity for us to fix some things around here with money that we don't have budgeted for it. So I just wondered if me saying any of this brings up anything in town that we can think of that you know, I know we spoke about, there's a culvert over here, it's actually over by your property that I thought was, that I thought was of an issue of caving in and everything else over by the tire dump that we own.
Yeah, and
I
there
don't know
was
if
just a walkthrough with that with the, I don't know, was the Federal Environmental Protection, but Lindsay Sabadoso did that on last Friday.
Did what?
Did a walkthrough with whomever to look at that culvert.
Oh, she did?
Yes, with some, Ed, were you part of that?
I know nothing about that. So
Okay.
now I'm taking a little exception to hearing
Okay.
about it.
I happened to hear about it she came
Oh,
to
boy.
the COA luncheon and said she was staying on in Southampton to walk through this culvert
With who?
with someone, whether, I don't know, it was federal or state. And
I'm
I mean,
sure-
it was just a casual conversation because of the shoes she was wearing. It wasn't about walking in a farm field.
Yeah. I think it was,
So that was the extent of the conversation, but that's how I became aware of it.
the little I heard was, it was with the Fletchers, or certainly with Bob, I think, and I think Mass DOT maybe, because of the state highway issue,
Okay.
maybe were involved.
It may have been,
That's all I know, maybe.
but someone, yes.
You know, so, well, sorry to bring up a sore subject, but I mean, I know that there's that, and then, you know, there's part of me that's thinking about this, and I wonder if there's anything that can be done for any of we have a ton of dirt roads, and I'm sure while maintaining them and grading them is not part of this, but I just wonder if, you know, with the exception of paving them, because I'm not necessarily in support of that either, but I just wonder if any of this would shore those up in a positive way, because I think Randall and the highway department spends quite a bit of time dealing with drainage and grading and everything else associated with the unimproved roads in town. So those were like two things that like immediately came to my mind. I know we've been kicking around ideas of generators in various different buildings, and we have one here. But these were things that were just bouncing around in my head that I thought we should just discuss in case there are projects that I'm not aware of that were discussed in the past prior to my arrival that might be considered under this.
Well, at the meeting I told you I went to, which involved the police, fire, superintendent, assistant principal from Norris, this actually came up because we were discussing, we have a new generator in this building. We discussed, is this a place for shelter? No, but it would be a place for a warming, cooling, charging phones, kind of a thing. Now that we have the generator, then we discussed the role that the school plays. And the point was made that really the writing for this for a generator is not necessarily the interest of the school, it's the interest of the town.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the onus, it wouldn't be on the school department to move this forward. But the point Charlie made was his role isn't to go ahead and write this. His goal is to bring this to departments.
Exactly.
So like you said, with the highway department and the roads and such, it would come from the highway department, or it would come from the town or
Sure.
school department, whatever.
Yep.
So he wouldn't play the role in driving it forward. He would play a role of supporting it and helping, but not the driver.
No, of course, and I understand that. I just, you know, these things come across where everybody's busy, we're all busy, town department heads are busy, and I just, if there were any ideas, it's not, I don't think it's the worst idea to even tip somebody off and just say, hey, like,
Yeah, right.
you know, this is something that's been a concern in the past. Do you think that it would apply for, I don't, just having a decent discussion about it, not saying to like force somebody's hand or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that at all, but just to like mention it in passing. And I do remember the generator with regard to the school, and yeah, what would we decide that the balancing of that would be that would be a town need, not a school need? Isn't that
I think that was the point that was made at the meeting last week. That,
and then
the
who
town-
bears the responsibility for the cost and maintenance and everything
yeah,
else?
and writing this would be more of a town
Yeah.
need. So I think everybody agreed that down the road, having a generator at the Norris School would be a good idea. But I think the onus would be on the town more than the school department as a facility in the
Yeah.
town.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Got a fairly short deadline on this for expressions of interest. It's October 11th, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I brought it up, because
Yeah.
he sent it out, and
Last week, I guess it was.
I mean, Ed, can you think of anything that's worth pinging the department heads or relevant people to just say, hey, just a thought?
Well, actually,
in case
Charlie went over this when he had the EMD meeting over at the EOC, which is, he had a couple of days before the one with the school. And actually, I thought of one particular thing, but there's some caveats that go along with this, is that these are supposed to come off our existing plan where we have noted areas of concern, number one, and then number two is that we're supposed to be able to identify past costs to repair these areas. So when we were discussing that over at the EOC, it didn't seem like we had anything that really was identified in the plan. So we're probably going to have to go back and take a look at that plan, maybe superimpose some of these things of culverts and whatever that you were just talking about. But the other piece of the puzzle is, looks like we're actually going to try to have to go back and see if we have had any past damage that we can identify past costs for to, shall we say, improve our chances of getting the grants. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, the first thing that jumped in my mind was the same thing that you had mentioned as far as a culvert went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think periodically, I get emails about various grants, municipal vulnerability preparedness grant and the disability access grant and so forth. So I think one of the things that was one of the goals that was put on the evaluation had to do with maybe coming up with some kind of a plan where we might have some systematic way of maximizing our opportunity for grants. And I don't know if these things are presented to department heads and there's a discussion, because it's always around, what are our chances? What's our capacity? Is the effort worth the grant amount? I mean, we've been very successful recently with a lot of grants, and we're
And good-sized grants.
Yeah, we're getting good-sized grants, and then hopefully we'll get the official word on the water pipe there on the bridge, Route 10.
On Route 10, yes.
Yep. So there's been a lot of really successes lately. So perhaps that's something that we can discuss at another agenda item, is some systematic way of finding out.
If they originate from the department heads, it could just be as simple as, these things all come in my email. I don't know how they come to you.
I get them too.
Create an email folder if that's how you organize things, and put all the grants in there, and then at every department head meeting, go through the new ones. And
or a lot of times
remind.
They're such a short time frame that we'll send them out to the department.
Yeah.
If you think there's a department head that it might be pertain to or whatever, we'll send it out in an email even before a department head meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a need within department heads? I know we talked about the possibility of having you explore options for grant writers or that sort of thing. Is there a need for additional education of department heads in terms of grant writing or in terms of evaluating grants?
Are they scared to do them, do you think? Or
Here's my experience with grants. There's two pieces of the puzzle. The grant writer is the creative piece, shall we say, that makes it sound really good and knows how to use the wording. But there's also usually a very technical or specific component that you need the department head to actually give you all that information, and you kind of meld the two together.
Yeah, and I think that our challenge is going to be, to me, I mean, it takes a special talent in my mind to write a grant proposal and do it well.
And it also takes an extra effort.
And
too.
it takes a lot of effort. And so to find somehow not only a body, but before that, identify some possible resources, funding resources, that we could maybe have a part-time person on call or something like that to help us when we wanted to submit an application, that we could have that resource available, would be great. Because I think it really does take somebody's attention to sort of follow
and going
this.
above and beyond too, I imagine too. It's outside of
Right.
Yeah.
It's a time capacity thing also.
Right.
Right, exactly. So,
And for some of them, we can utilize, agencies like Pioneer Valley Planning or whatever for it too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any other comments about that?
Well, there's something in here, property acquisition,
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the options.
I know.
what was that?
Property acquisition. I know. There's a lot, the thing's pretty
Yeah, they're-
pretty general. So I just feel like there's got to be something out there for us in there, but.
Okay, any questions about the pending items?
I just a thought. I had the opportunity on short-term disability to talk to a financial services person out there who gave me kind of the lowdown on what's being done out there in other different municipalities and companies. And his opinion is that 13 weeks of short-term disability paid for by the employer, and then an option for long-term disability paid for by the employee is something that's pretty standard out there. He, and I'm sure others, willing to come in and at least give us the overall, market, if you will. And I told him, I said, we don't want anybody giving us exact pricing because that would preclude you from giving a price later on when we're actually going out. But I think we should get one or two companies in to pursue this a little more.
Oh, I agree. Did you get that information that contacted Ed? Because I think the way that we left it last time is.
Yeah.
You're gonna, yeah. Okay. I think that'd be great if we can put it on the agenda for, maybe one of the upcoming meetings.
So put what on the agenda, bring people
We'll
in?
bring a guest in to
Yeah.
actually give us
Okay.
the lowdown on how it
So-
works in the private sector.
So I'll give you the information and you
Yeah.
can contact the person if you want?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that is pretty standard, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
The other important thing is that starting next year, we're going to have paid family medical leave, which will impact significantly everybody around the availability of people being off for disability purposes and/or healthy childbirth and so forth, so
Yeah.
that's important to keep
And one piece on the disability piece, don't forget, we have an existing bylaw that basically says we provide 26 weeks, so it's a process if
Oh,
we're going to
interesting.
change, of how we go back. I mean, one of the things that I've thought about is perhaps, is there a process where
Half a year.
we self-insure, whether it's 13 weeks or 15 weeks or whatever, and then buy the insurance for the remaining, 11 weeks or whatever to get to the 26 too, which kind of lessens our exposure and risk
Right.
to some extent. So there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll hear from these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to be able to hear that.
That's sort of a compromise between the two.
Yeah.
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 and-
Yeah, that would be good
Yeah.
to hear.
Any other topic on the list here people want to talk about?
It's gotta be time to go home, you're out.
Yep. Okay, we already talked about the calendar. Articles for town meeting. Is this just FYI? We're not voting on anything yet, right?
Well, no, and today they close, so this is what we have, is the East Street Bridge borrowing. Another vote is needed because it exceeded that 90-day timeline. And I put the wording for that into your packets, and that's
Oh,
our
in the packet today?
Well, no,
I
it
did
should have
not
been in
see
the
that.
original packet.
Oh,
And online. Yeah, it's number 99, or page 99. But I had town council review that for any suggested edits, which they gave me, and now I'm going to send it off to bond council to see if they're comfortable with it, or they want to recommend any edits to it to be included.
is the packet that you upload different from the packet you send by email?
Yes, it'll have.
Okay, because I didn't, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I should always check the online version.
Yes.
Okay,
Because
I remember seeing
normally there'll be additions
okay,
to it, plus the one that goes into drop dot box, the numbers on this agenda will refer to the page number so you can find it quicker and easier. There's a town bylaw amendment article, amendment to Article 7 for restriction and issuance of local licenses and permits, which we've talked about before, which is in the draft box. There, and it was amended again tonight, the new town bylaw for solid waste recycling, rather than the mandatory recycling bylaw that we went over tonight. There'll be an article to rescind one of the Glendale Road funding articles from the July 26, 2018 special town meeting, because actually when we took the option to put 2 articles on there and approve them both, we actually did 2 appropriations. So now we will rescind the one that we did not use. So in DOR's eyes, we don't have 2 appropriations on the book. It's a clerical piece, but we will do that. Ian Illingsworth found a previous fiscal year bill for Goosetown Communications, which does the dispatch radio network over there. So Vicky, and that's in the loose part of your package tonight under unpaid bills for $270 from fiscal year 2018. That will actually take a 9/10 majority at a special town meeting to pass. And then for Virginia A. Hart gave me 2 draft articles which have been approved by CPC. I'll just have to refine the wording. Let's say, I should have, I think that went into your packets. Yeah. So there is 1 to see if the town will vote to transfer $6,000 from community preservation funds to the Southampton Youth Athletic Association for the purchase of a movable scoreboard to be used for the softball team. Said funds to be transferred from community preservation funds, undesignated funds. And then the second article, CPC article, will be to see if the town will vote to transfer $16,000 from community preservation funds to the parent-teacher organization of the Norris School for the purchase of a playground shade shelter for the pre-K to K playground area. Said funds to be transferred from community preservation surcharges, undesignated funds. And Virginia put a note on here, the PTO had not been designated as actually accepting those funds as the last she knew. The Girl Scout who was working on volunteering to do this had not at that time verified that, and she'll let us know when all is in place. When they did the playground equipment, it was the PTO was the designated organization to get those funds to actually purchase the playground equipment. So that's why they were pursuing the thought of adding the shade back to that parent-teacher organization. If not, we might have to actually award it to Norris School, but they're working on the PTO designation at this point.
Okay, so Ed, a question on that. The 2 different articles, one's from community preservation funds undesignated, the other's community preservation surcharges undesignated. Are there 2 separate accounts?
They're actually, if they're both undesignated, like I say, I'll have to work on the wording. But yeah, there's basically undesignated is the biggest piece.
Okay.
My memory is 70% of the surcharges go into that. There is affordable housing, which we haven't utilized yet. There is historical. And then the last piece is, I believe, open space and recreation.
So you'll make sure the right names are attached to these?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told actually Virginia that, okay, just get me the basics. I can do the wordsmithing on it. So, but I needed the actual requests for the particular articles by today, because we put today's date on the deadline to receive any requests for articles for the special town meeting. Then the...
Could I ask a question about these ones?
Yeah, sure.
I know CPC goes directly to the public, and we don't have to approve them, nor do we even read them at town meeting, but have we had a situation where the tax dollars or the surcharge on our taxes goes to a private organization? SYAA is a private organization. I know when I was in SYAA, we had a fundraiser every year. We raised $5,000 for 5 years to buy various things for the kids. And I'm just, I'm not, have we had a situation where we use tax dollars to pay a private organization as opposed to Park and Rec? We don't have a Park and Rec, but we have a Parks Department. I mean, I think we did the church one time, but we have a memorandum of agreement with the church about shared space and shared parking lot space. So can you think of a situation where we used...
I've only been here 18 months, so I would have to go back and do some research.
I actually have a list in the computer somewhere, because when we were proposing, when we were looking to support, continue it at 3% surcharge, I looked at the whole history of the use of the funds. I'm just a little concerned that this is tax money going to a private organization.
That is allowed. I can tell you, it is allowed, because I live in a community that has utilized it for that. I worked in another community that it was proposed, but they did not do the funding because they needed more information on it. But it is allowed under the CPC laws, as long as that organization still fills one of those basic categorical needs of what, I mean, a church could apply and get awarded funding if it was a historical building. But yeah, under open space and recreation, if they filled that type of niche, they could be awarded under that also.
Kim, did you want to add?
Tammy Williams, 298 College Highway. The softball fields that they're talking about are actually at Norris, I believe. So
no, it's actually for a removable, aren't they talking about a removable?
It's a movable.
It's a movable scoreboard.
Right,
yeah.
But the softball fields are at Norris, so it's something that will probably be used there, which is a town building.
I know. I just wanted to ask a question about the
organization,
sort of tax dollars going to a private organization, even though it is used, so.
Yeah, it is allowed.
Okay.
As like I say, as long as it still fits into one of those categories. The Veterans Agent has requested, and I put the wording, which I will still have Town Council look at. In fact, I've sent it off to Town Council already for the local adoption of Clause 22 exemptions for being at 1 year rather than the state 2-year piece.
Right.
Yeah. And then lastly is, in addition to the request from the Board of Health and Transfer Station on the solid waste recycling bylaw, the Board of Health has also requested funding from operational stabilization, and I'll read it to you. It's in your packet that I added this evening in the loose side, to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, or otherwise provide the sum of $15,192.82 to fund Human Services account number 015-510.113, Health Director salary for the remainder of fiscal year 2020, in order to enable the Southampton Department of Public Health to continue to provide health and human services through to the end of the fiscal year. And those are all the articles that we have for the special town meeting.
So the plan for the ones that we need to sign off on would be at the next meeting? Are we supposed to take a vote on anything?
Well, you can, if there's any on here that you do not want to include in that you can take a vote this evening. Otherwise, they will all show up on the 1st on that warrant for your signature.
What do you mean don't want to include in that?
Well, my intent at this point in time would be to include all these articles on that warrant for your signature on October 1st. So
We don't have the authority to remove articles, correct?
Sure, yeah, there's certain ones
Sure
we
you do.
yeah. They have to go through us. The
Unless it-
ones that come with
Yeah.
10 residents' signatures, voter signatures, we can't touch, or the CPC, but the other ones, we have to vote them onto the warrant, if I'm remembering correctly.
you're correct.
Okay.
Since I don't know too much about this, could somebody explain a little bit more this last one on the Board of Health? I mean, it's budgeted already, is it not? I mean, the position is budgeted. The salary's been established, or is this in addition to the salary?
It's in addition to the salary.
Correct.
Why is that necessary?
Because right now, for what was budgeted, because of the change in salary due to the
Pay equity?
pay equity issue, it would not fund that position through the entire fiscal year. This would fund that, and I won't say salary, but the hourly wage for the health director at 32 hours per week through the entire fiscal year.
Any comments on that?
And the only other way to stay within budget is to reduce the hours, give the hourly rate as it was recommended through that process to comply, right? And in order to do that, without this additional funding, the hours would have to be reduced, is that correct?
Correct. So that's the way it exists in the budget right now, is it doesn't allow for 32 hours a week through 52.2 weeks.
And how much in terms of remaining balance could be funded, how many hours per week?
Dangerous.
How many hours per week would the remaining balance fund for the rest between now and the end of the year?
I would have to do that analysis because, the individual's already worked 32 hours a week up until this point, so I would have to take a look, and it's not a straight calculation.
I'm not crazy about raises or extended hours.
I'm not either.
Once the budget has already been made, we've been in this mess before. It's opening up a can of worms. I think I've said it before. I think the Board of Health needs to relook at the structure of the Board of Health. We ended up okaying the health agent to come on board with not having the qualifications, with the promise that they were going to become certified. I understand that some of that has happened. I would like to have a Board of Health that looks at the needs of the town of our size and who does what. I think
Yep.
the Board of Health
So-
authorized the closing of the office on Thursdays so that, the health director could get work done. I just feel like we need to meet with the Board of Health. If they're asking for our support around certain things funding-wise, then we don't ever get the opportunity. I don't feel like I get the opportunity to really hear from them. Personally, right now, we're in the middle of a lot of crises from EEE. They mentioned opioid, but let me tell you, there's EEE, there's measles, there's immunizations, there's vaping. We have a huge amount of public health areas right now that should be addressed besides the opioid situation. And I want more public education. I mean, there's a lot more that this Board of Health, I would like to see.
I mean, all the things that you mentioned were things that I noticed as liaison previously, and I'm in wholly support of that. All of those things, I really am. I mean, I think they really just need to take a good, strong look at the organization of their board, the organization of that department, and I think everybody needs to stick within their budget. I mean, that was voted, and the other thing is that this was already previously voted on at town meeting, so. And it was voted down by the public. They have a right to try to put it back on again, but we don't have to approve it.
And I will say this, if it is on the warrant, because it's coming from stabilization, it will require a 2/3 majority vote.
No, I
to
understand
pass.
that, and I'm not supportive of that either. I mean, this is a line item budget item, and I've spoken publicly about that. I'm not in support of, I'm absolutely not in support of ongoing budgetary items with what amounts to free cash. Like, I get that it's operating stabilization, but this is an ongoing, this is not a one-time expense. This is ongoing. This will be a year over year. And so to prop that up with a free cash type account is not fiscally responsible.
Mhm. Any other comments or action that you want to take?
You want to?
I think we certainly have a meeting with the Board of Health. Hopefully that happens. Do we want to wait and have a conversation with them about it, or see what their thinking is? Or do you have any other action you want to take tonight?
Well, we have to vote all of these in, don't we, at some point? We don't have to vote them in tonight, but we're going to have the opportunity to decide whether or not we vote these in, right? And that's at our next meeting?
Yeah, and I can, like I
We
say,
have enough time to
I
do
will develop with the warrant with all of them on there. If you decide that 1, 2, or whatever you don't want on there for the special town meeting, I can actually remove them from the warrant and reprint it that night, so.
So it doesn't it have to be settled 14 days before the town meeting? If
Well,
that's,
the
if
next
that's,
meeting will be the 1st, so you're.
maybe it'll be the 1st. It might be
Well,
the 2nd,
could be
3rd,
the
or
2nd.
7th.
It's still within 14.
Well, it's the 22nd,
Has to be
The 7th
so
posted
that
on the 8th.
7th will still be, the 8th would be the
Yeah.
key,
8th is too
okay.
late. The 7th is
Okay.
the last possible date.
Okay.
Okay, so I can
That's why
live
we
with
said
that,
first, second, or 7th.
so I'm fine with that then.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. I lost my last page. Are we up to open time for the public? Was there another
It
page?
is open time for the public.
Open time for the public?
A little late, isn't it?
Once.
Our loyal public? Do you have any questions? Anything to? Oh, okay. All right, we don't have any executive sessions, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.